Can history predict the future? Of course it can. We've seen it over and over again, where one country will, rise to power. Other countries, see it as a threat, and then there's war. So, we've seen this over and over again, especially with the United States, rising to power, and in some cases, of course, abusing that power. Or are we abusing that power now with Iran? If we get too rambunctious and too arrogant in defeating our enemy, which is the IRGC, that could be the one thing that could turn everyone against us, all right, which has happened throughout history. Now, I'm going to go watch the movie The Odyssey by Homer. Who wrote the book, the Iliad and the Odyssey. I read both of those as a young man, probably, a teenager, not really a young man. So, 13, 14, 15 is when I read those books. So, they just called to me. So, and I have past life memories in those timeframes, which we're going to talk about. Now, in those past life memories, and I wrote about this in The Awakening of a Warrior, this particular time frame, where I have these memories of as King Idomeneus of Crete, having fought in the Trojan War, and being in, because only the greats were inside the Trojan horse, Achilles, myself, and others. So we basically, we're let ourselves out and started battle inside the walls, opened the gates, and the Greeks came in. Now the time frames that they talk about, not so much. They weren't as long as what they said, but there was, I believe, and I've talked about this in many other instances, where the planet Nibiru came close at that time frame, because they talk about it in the Iliad, where there was a battle where they fought for like 24 hours with it being daylight, and on the other side of the world, the Mayans talked about having 24 hours of darkness. So there was obviously something that happens when this planet, this 12th planet, comes into our environs every 3,600 years. And causes these events, right? So they've been documented. Of course, history is written by those who control it, right? So a lot of times we don't get to see this other than in some of these books and so forth. So let's look at a little bit of this and kind of go down this rabbit hole just a little bit. Now, a lot of people, there's kind of like those that are intuitive, that open their spiritual side, and can see these things and can go into past lives and so forth. And then, of course, there are those that are very materialistic and rely completely on the five senses, very analytical, and I'm part that as well. Having been a Navy SEAL, you have to be able to do these things, read maps, and fire guns and take them apart and put them back together again really quick if you have to, and all that stuff is an analytical process, and we're taught this in school. We're not taught intuition in school. Intuition comes later in life, usually. Some people have some of it in the beginning stages if they're born into families that recognize this intuitive side, this spiritual connection, God energies and so forth. Then, of course, there's the dark side, which does that as well. They'll start to manipulate and control and their children, like we've had many people on my show, Kathy O'Brien, who talks about this, where they're traumatized by dark forces, dark families, and so forth, to activate certain aspects of their intuitions that's tied to the dark side. So there is, this war, consciousness war that's going on, and those that don't understand intuition because they're really locked into the five senses, if they can't see it, touch it, smell it, taste it, it doesn't exist outside of that boundary, right? So that's understandable to me. But, eventually, hopefully, those people that are kind of locked into that will eventually open themselves a little bit to the intuitive side, which is absolutely informing on massive levels. All right, so let me show you guys real quick some of this stuff because I want to go catch this movie. And it takes about an hour for me to get down there. It starts in about a little over an hour from where I'm at right now. So this is going to be kind of quick. So this is The Waking of a Warrior, Past Lives of the Navy SEAL Remembered. Of course, there's a little
Consider the possibility that beyond your earliest recollections lie myriads of memories of lives that existed before yours. These are your past lives, which may hold the solution to your problems and conundrums of today. The Awakening of a Warrior is my...
So your past lives may hold answers to your problems and conundrums of today. And this is what we're seeing right now, I believe, with the United States and the Iranian conflict, right? It's not really a war, but it is reaching very high levels of conflict. This is something obviously that's happened, throughout time, the Trojan War, like I'm talking about. So let's go a little bit deeper.
Jayco's journey through the reincarnation memories of many of his previous lives, from ancient Indian kings to a Persian hero and a Spartan warrior. Jayco's thrilling lifetimes are inspirational and mind-bending in scope. His autobiography has taken a half-century to write, but has been eons in the making. The Awakening of a Warrior.
So eons in the making. This book is available obviously in print and Audible, so you can get that on Amazon if you are ready to go down that rabbit hole, or if you want to expand your own consciousness into those realms. So there's definitely that's available for you. Now the Odyssey itself, the movie, is going to go into that lifetime. So I'm going to watch it and I'm going to go, yeah, they got that, because it always happens. I'm a remote viewer and I can look into the future and see things, but I can also look into the past and I can go into my past lifetimes and find out what the real truths were back in that time frame through my eyes, through my memories, and so forth. So a lot of our history is written incorrectly by far, right? And people interpret it different ways. People want to manipulate it to benefit them and so forth. So I mean, almost everything, even the Odyssey and the Iliad, have over time, because it was an oral history for hundreds and thousands of years, and then they started to write it. And when stuff starts getting written down, that's when manipulation comes in. So both of those books are somewhat manipulated. There is untruths in them, and of course, there's interpretation, like I'm going to see in this movie. And they have a black woman, that's the Helen Freud. No, no. They do these things, they change things. Looks like there's some kind of robots or something in the movie. I think that maybe they were the gods that they talk about that were fighting. There were gods, godlike beings that were fighting with us in those battles. So, I can talk about all this stuff, but I'm going to go see this movie and report on it. But it is fascinating information to look at history and tell what is coming. And when I see this movie, I'm going to get some insights, I know, that are going to come back. It happens every time I see this stuff. Every time I go to a place where I've been historically, and it's like, I'm like, whoa, I've been here before. And then, the memories start coming through. It's pretty wild. So the Odyssey official trailer, it's an epic movie, 2 hours and 52 minutes. So definitely want to allot some time to go see that movie. I highly recommend it because this is art. You might want to wait for my interpretation of it. But Idomeneus, the king of Crete, that went to the war. It talks about him quite a bit in the Iliad. Not so much the Odyssey, of course, because that's Odysseus's journey back. Now, like I said, there was a Nibiru incident where it basically shifted the Earth around a little bit, shook us up. So the stars that we use to navigate back home had us going all over the place because, and you can even see that in Egypt, there were these hourglasses that were set up, from the sun. So the sun will come in, you can tell what time it is. Some of them are backwards, right? So obviously there's been times in the past where the earth has shifted and so forth. And there's talk about the Nile going a different direction, all kind of crazy stuff. So who knows, maybe it's interpretation of the time, interpretation, to the future. So some of these interpretations can, cause confusion. But Idomeneus, the king of Crete, who fought in the Trojan War, one of my lifetimes, the story of King Idomeneus of Crete does not end with the Trojan War. While the Iliad does not reveal his fate, later sources discuss, how he was in Italy for a while. So we were confused about, how to get back home, and he made a deal with Poseidon, the god Poseidon, that if he could get home, then he would sacrifice the first that he saw. And this is where things get funny in history. It's like the first person that he saw was his son, so he sacrificed his son. That's bullshit, right? So I can tell you that's bullshit. And he did make it back home, and he did a lot of great things for Crete going forward. So that's some of the stuff that you're going to encounter in history. I look at that and I'm like, bullshit, right? All right. So no, that didn't happen that way. We eventually figured out because if you look and you ask, because some of you are like, well, I'll ask the AI and it'll tell me if you're right. So yeah, AI is going to tell you has been inputted into it. All right. And of course that, like I said, is all interpretation from a lot of different people that have something that they want to gain from lying. All right. Or they are just misinformed, through history, things get mixed up. So I believe that there was, they talk about it in the book, how rivers overflowed their banks and went the other way, and, all kinds of crazy stuff. So what would cause something like that? And that would be a nearby a celestial, planet, the 12th planet that came by and caused this. And it's been talked about, throughout history. But most people are like, oh, that's all bullshit. Right? It's not bullshit. I have memories of it. So it is actually something that has occurred. Now, so let me show you a little bit. I talk about this quite a bit in The Awakening of a Warrior, and there's the second edition that you can get on Amazon as well. So the first edition, which is an audio through Amazon, and then there's a second edition that has all the pictures. That's the one I recommend if you're going to get the print. But you can get the Audible if you, like me, you don't have time to read books anymore. But the pictures are great for the second edition. Incredible pictures. And that's Brad Olson that, helped me put all that together. So he did a fantastic job on that. So Thucydides on history. So this is another one of my lifetimes. And let me show you when I talk about, how in the books, how you will carry forward a lot of similarities, throughout time. All right. So this is a picture, if it will come up, of Thucydides. All right. So I don't know about you guys, but that's me staring back at myself with a beard. Right. So that's some of the things you will bring forward, different aspects of yourself throughout time. And I can see multiple times where I brought forward, my similarities. All right. So let me give you another one. Now Thucydides he wrote a book, and basically, and this is where I'm talking about the time, and how I can go back in time and know certain things. So this book actually is complete history of the Peloponnesian War. So it's kind of cool that I can go back and check out some of the books that I wrote in the past, because I've written books all the way back to Egyptian times, and many times I'm an author, king, a warrior, sailor, and admirals, and generals and all kind of crazy stuff. So I have all throughout each major culture that's risen: so Egyptian times, Greek, Roman, European, and now here in America. So each one of these time frames, I incarnate into and try and help humanity progress. So Thucydides, and he talks about this Thucydides trap, and I'll probably talk a little bit more about this and a little bit further. So he was talking about time frame of Athens and Sparta. So I was a Athenian in past lives, and I was Spartan in past lives, and I've talked about some of this in the book, The Awakening of a Warrior. So I'm back and forth. You're back and forth in these lifetimes. You're learning, you're helping, you're growing. So you're helping societies advance. So some of these, time frames are, full of, because today is, and I think we is the United States, Athens. And I think in many ways we are. Now, we face a similar fate of Athens and the Peloponnesian War. And that's a concept that I will probably address in a future show. So it is looking, unfortunately, that way because Athens did not fare well in the Peloponnesian War, because they went against Sparta, who's the most badass fighters ever, and so that's one of the things that I will look at. So history of the Peloponnesian War. This is 431, 404 BC. And so we're looking at, about 2,500 years ago. And you're like, you have memories back then? Yeah, I go tap into them. It's not like they're current memories, right? But I can meditate and go into those time frames and pull information out. Yeah, because there's some people that are looking at, and I've seen them currently, that are looking at aspects of that book and they don't understand. I clearly perfectly understand, so I can discuss that. I could give a lecture on that book, right, from that point of view, and just channel that information through. That's the kind of stuff that is incredible about tapping into your past lives and being a remote viewer and so forth, and intuitive. Now, here's some of the things that Thucydides said. Said, courage and vision, the bravest are surely those who have the clearest vision of what is before them, glory and danger alike. So you guys know that I've talked about this in the Intuitive Warrior, lessons from a Navy SEAL on how to tap into your own hidden potential. We all have this, but you have to learn to overcome fear. And if fear and love are the opposite, if you go to love when you're feeling fear, you will reach incredible levels of control, self-control, and also capabilities, right? So because I push my five senses, where a lot of you are like, fine, if it doesn't exist in the five senses, I don't believe it. But when you push your five senses, like I did as a Navy SEAL, because I wanted to hear things to make sure that I kept me and my team safe. I wanted to see things. I wanted to all these things. So all of us that are long-term Navy SEALs and Special Forces and so forth, we've all experienced these sixth sense type of capabilities. And you talk to anybody that was in for a while. You can't talk to a guy that's in 4 years, 4, 6, 8 years, whatever. You go through a little period where you get to that 10-year mark and you're like, should I stay or should I go now? And I stayed, and that's where you really start to gather some really incredible capabilities. All right, so love of power, operating through greed and through personal ambition, was the cause of all evils. War is an evil thing, but to submit to the dictation of other states is worse. So this is where we're at right now, I believe, with the Iranian conflict, to submit to, so everybody could, a lot of people are in this ballpark, where your war is evil regardless. No. More evil is allowing other countries, states, Nazis, whatever, they're still here in the United States, take control and overpower us, right? That is more evil. So that's where I stand. All right. And that's where I was 2,500 years ago. All right. I haven't changed. That is a truth that, stands the test of time. All right. So do they, change or manipulate history? Yeah. All right. RFK Jr. All right. Or JFK Jr. I'm sorry. JFK Jr. RFK Jr. is still here, but JFK Jr. is somewhere. All right. In my opinion. All right. So here is a little statement here. Tina Zimmerman says, don't you find it interesting? Some Navy diver that recovered JFK Jr.'s body is now in charge of the U.S. Navy. All right. The Honorable Hung Kao. Right. He's actually a good guy. Acting Secretary of the Navy. He is an excellent person in that position. Now, people can be deceived. All right. So you're like, well, how could he be deceived? JFK's body, drowned and he recovered it. He was part of the team that recovered it. Now, I've talked to another guy where I've been saying for years now that JFK Jr. is still alive, because when that plane went down, I'm like, that's bullshit. That was a setup, and he's still alive. I knew it right then, intuitively, remote viewed it, everything. So I say that he's still alive. Now, there are people that looked at that body, recovered that body, and his wife's and his sister-in-law, I think, and they will swear that that was them. But if you're in the water for a period of time, you get swollen. All right, your body starts to swell. So it's very hard to absolutely know, because somebody else could have been there. But of course, they, who would do something like that? Now, as a demolition expert, I know that there's a device that you can put on demolition where it reaches a certain altitude and it causes the explosion. So you can kick off the explosion device by an altitude control device. So it reaches a certain altitude and then boom. So I believe they knew that. They left that device on there. They loaded some bodies in there, and they remote control that plane up. It blew up, and Navy divers recovered those bodies that they stuck in there, and they very rapidly cremated those bodies. Right. All right. So that's my view. And like I said, there are guys that I trust, and they said that they knew the guys that they're Navy divers. I was a Navy diver when I first came in. So these are outstanding individuals, high integrity, just like Navy SEALs. Well, not all of the Navy SEALs, but most Navy SEALs. So, some people are, bamboozled, guys, and throughout history. Now, let me give you an example. During World War II, the Brits, MI6, basically put together a complete trickery for Hitler. They had this one guy. It was they took his body and they created this whole facade of a general. He was actually they had a torpedo. They filled the torpedo tube and shot him out. And he came ashore in Spain, and a Spanish fisherman found the body, and he had a suitcase that was handcuffed to his wrist. Perfect, right? So within the suitcase, they found basically everything about his life. And then, of course, probably some enterprising spies would go into the system and look for this guy. Well, they put in the system this guy as well. He had a whole life. He had a girlfriend or a wife or whatever, and just all these different things. And he was highly decorated. He had stories. He had notes to his mistress or his wife or his girlfriend, whatever. And so they fell for it. So they thought the landing was going to happen in a different place, and the Allies landed someplace different and got the upper hand and did really well. All right. So this is obviously something that has been done throughout history. And to say that there's no way they could have put bodies in there to, be, JFK Jr. We know that Hillary Clinton's team the deep state basically had JFK Jr. and not JFK Jr. in New York. So she's from Arkansas. Remember Bill Clinton? Yeah. So she's from Arkansas, and somehow she like gets over to New York and becomes a New York senator. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff, guys, that is manipulated throughout history and so forth. Now, let me give you one more, and then I got a jet to go see this movie. Now, I've talked about this in several occasions. Civil War, Louis Armistead, and he was killed at the battle at the Battle of Gettysburg. All right, so same thing, same look, same everything. Now, I could do this with lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Same type of mentality, same type of problems that I have in this life, on and on and on. So this is Louis Armistead, looks like me. Now, this was the first physical person that I found, and it took me a while. And my wife's downstairs saying, I found it, and she did, because I was struggling. I was looking, because I was told I was a general, and from a psychic, couple different psychics. And I was like, well, which one, which side? And so I started to visualize, I started to remote view myself going up the hill. And I had a sword, so that would be a general, and I had boots. So boots are basically for people that are on horseback. So that's also a senior officer as well, or cavalry, right? So senior officer with a sword, walking up the hill. I led the charge, which I have done. I did the same thing in Troy. I led charges and turned the tide of battle. This one, not so much, because if you've heard some of my stories, I've said that there was time wars that went on, and they went in and they changed the outcome of this battle, right? It was supposed to be won by the Confederates, and they were going to march into DC and stop the war. So it was changed. They knew exactly, where the Confederates were going to strike, and they had never been able to do that before, right? So they've been bamboozled and fooled by the Confederates, because they're very, very good fighters. And in this war, they basically destroyed the Confederate Army. All right, so here you go. There's me in a past lifetime. Now, where was he wounded? So he was wounded in this battle. He was wounded. Now, many of you know that I've had my left kneecap shattered. He was wounded just below the knee. And he was wounded just above the upper arm, which in this life, my right shoulder has been a problem for me. Wow. He was a slender guy. He was a fancy guy. He liked to wear clothes. He was a fancy dresser. Yes, that's me. And also, he can eat a meal. He can eat more than everybody else and still stay slender. That's me. So all these different things. He's made quotes that are similar to me. All these different things. Unbelievable, right? So these are some of the things that I want you guys to be aware of. We're in historical times, and history does not have to completely repeat itself again. And I believe it's not going to, but we have to be more aware of how to change our future for the better, right? So tapping into history, looking at history, and it doesn't have to be ancient history, like I'm talking about. I'm talking about all the way up to now, right? So I can give you lifetime after lifetime, all the way up until current time frames, right? So it's one of those gifts that we have and that we can tap into, but not if you're a very locked into analytical five senses, nothing else outside the five senses, right? You have to be able to expand yourself, and you have to be able to tap into God. So I've tapped into God, and that's how I'm able to remote view and have these intuitions and so forth. All right. Yeah, that mustache, right? Right. So throughout time, I guess. Yeah, it's there. I don't know why I keep growing it, but it's like, come on, can I change my face a little bit? Yeah, I can shave it off. I've done it. I've had clean, but yeah. So yeah, that's right, Janet. Be respectful to Michael, because a lot of people are not going to be, because they have their own personal values, their own personal views, and they're not flexible. They're very rigid. It's very, very unfortunate, but that's why we're in the situation. That's why we still have war, guys, because we have a lot of people that are inflexible. They've had many lifetimes of being bad guys. All right. And I and many of you have had many lifetimes of being good guys, good people, good gals. And we're trying to turn everything around for the better. So this is one of the ways that we can do that. You don't have to be involved in past lifetimes to look at history as a historian and figure out this is what's going to come. These are some of the things that we're going to see going into the future. All right. All right, guys. That's all I got for now. And Deborah Greenwood, are you laughing at me, or is that funny face? Because if you're laughing at me, you're going to go bye-bye. All right. Go ahead and answer up to that. All right. So because you can have different comments that you don't understand or don't follow that. But if you come and be negative, yeah, that's not going to happen. All right. We can have a discussion, but we're not going to have attacks. All right. So Deborah, what is that? 1, 2, 3, bye. All right. So that's kind of where we are, guys. We have a lot of people that are quite negative, and if you're going to be negative, you're not going to be part of history going forward in a positive way. All right, guys. Lots of love. Stay in the love vibration. I'm going to go see this movie. Probably tomorrow. Give some more insight on this because I have a lot of stuff on this. A lot of stuff. Right.
Judy note. Because of Trump and the global military alliance, the Satan-worshipping deep state elites were finally collapsing, while sovereigns of the world were reaching out to grasp constitutional law under God, governed by we the people. From Tier 4B, Thursday, July 16, 2026. The dollar is backed by gold, the IRS is gone, and the Federal Reserve has been absorbed into the new U.S. Treasury. Big Pharma is being held accountable with massive legal consequences incoming. The oil monopoly is being dismantled using light and sound frequencies, not pills. Peace is winning. The Great Awakening is here. What's next?
Within the next 48 hours, 7 trumpets will sound over every phone, tablet, and device on Earth to introduce 7 emergency broadcast system messages in 22 languages that will explain what was going on. Temporary martial law was now live with the White Hat Global Military Alliance in full control. 10 days of communication darkness was incoming where the internet would be down, banks offline. But fear not, for the military Starlink apps were already deployed for secure emergency contact. Be prepared with food, cash, and essentials on hand. The military will supply food and essentials where needed. Over 50,000 deep state traitors were already loaded onto convoys headed straight to Gitmo, or like facility, to face military tribunals. Why? It all goes back to the deep state globalist Satan-worshipping Rothschilds who owned the central banks around the globe and made their fortune for the cabal from funding both sides of wars that they organized. The Rothschilds were behind both world wars, had plans for World War III, and organized and promoted Israel for the sole purpose of promoting ongoing wars. The Rothschilds had created the war in Ukraine, but it was never about protecting the Ukraine people. Their mission was to have global control over the people through an engineered World War III that was funded, of course, by U.S. taxpayer monies. At first in Ukraine, they planned to use UK troops to force Russia into a direct conflict and use the resulting chaos to crush national sovereignty, paving the way for global dictatorship. Russia had another side to the story. Evidence that was used in Biden's military tribunal that ended with his conviction and death at Gitmo in Jan. 2021, just prior to Biden's fake inauguration. By April 29, 2025, the globalist plan had collapsed. They wanted to ignite World War III by sending UK troops to Ukraine, but the UK quickly abandoned troop deployment after Russia threatened them with nuclear retaliation. This sudden U-turn shattered the globalist coalition of NATO, Germany, the US Inc., and UK. Peacekeeping was exposed as human shield warfare, a trap meant to justify a world war. Now NATO's Plan B has been to hide troops in western Ukraine, far from the fire, while drone swarms, space-based weapons, and experimental assets activate under secret ops like Project BLACKSDAR and Project Asgard. The globalists' financial war plans have also accelerated. Digital currency, food shortages, and energy collapses, tools to cage the population. Recently on the Glenn Beck channel, a Scottish journalist, Alex Newman, warned, "The unelected globalists, including Bill Gates, the UN, and the WEF, are building a gigantic digital gulag for all of humanity. They are using biometric digital ID, CBDCs, and vaccine passport infrastructure to build a control system that will be able to survey and monitor everything we do on an unprecedented scale, and also manipulate what we do. This is a mechanism to control humanity that, in my opinion, has no precedent in human history." Long ago, Satan worshipper Bill Gates talked about this same plan to establish a private corporate world government that would control every human on Earth through their cell phones, with an AI surveillance system that would enforce a social credit score. For 15 years, pedophile Bill Gates worked with the government of Communist China, BlackRock, and the United Nations via the World Economic Forum to roll out a central bank digital currency system that would control health care, education, all commerce and travel. Larry Fink, Bill Gates, UN Secretary General Guterres, Klaus Schwab, and others have said that this system would be used to force 100% compliance and control on all human behavior. This was the mark of the beast. Of course, all globalists' plans required support of the US Congress to fund their corrupt agenda. With Trump and the global alliance's global currency reset now in effect, taking away the Rothschild and all globalists' money supply, the deep state globalist hopes to start a World War III migrated to start that World War III in Iran. The Muslims had long chanted death to America. So, Trump's thinking to not go to war with Iran, but to cut off their money supply by controlling the Strait of Hormuz, appeared to be a genius chess play and the right thing to do. We are reinstating the Iranian blockade, so named because it is only stopping Iran's ships or customers from entering or leaving. The USA will be, from this point forward, known as the guardian of the Hormuz Strait, when the Rothschilds are shut down in Iran. During his last days, Hitler established the Fourth Reich in the United States via Operation Paperclip from 1946-1959. Paperclip enabled the Nazis to infiltrate its government and intelligence agencies in the highest levels of the U.S. Inc. government. Hitler had 5 children who were indistinguishable from each other because they were all androgynous, bore characteristics of both male and female. Genders: 1. Angela Merkel, Germany's longest-serving chancellor. 2. Theresa May, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. 3. Dalia Grybauskaite, President of Lithuania. 4. Nancy Pelosi, U.S. Democrat and Speaker of the House. 5. Hitler's son Adolf's mother was Clara Hitler, a prostitute, undercover CIA agent.
Well, we thought we knew but didn't really know, and now we're supposed to know but don't have a clue. Thursday, July 16, 2026, U.S. intelligence claims Iran war a pretext for obtaining alien technology. A quantum space Q-phone will be provided free of charge to all people on Earth. It will be used for internet connectivity, texting and calling, banking, voting, and much more. It will be one of the main credit tools and most urgent expenditures in the daily life for retail consumption and for domestic and international commercial business. MS-13 Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says the quiet part out loud. The only way we're going to overthrow the constitutional republic of the United States is by granting citizenship to tens of millions of illegal aliens we deliberately imported. By the way, the number's not 11 million. When just under the Biden-Harris terrorist administration, they trafficked between 12 and 15 million in just 4 years alone. Wednesday, July 15th. Our voting machines and elections are compromised. The 2020 election was stolen, and members of our own government and intelligence community including the CIA, knew all about it and did nothing. Control was always the objective. The same playbook, voting machines and regime change. Operations were used around the world for years, while they lied right to your face. 2020 election voter fraud. December 28, 2020, Biden charged with stealing Ukraine billions, treason for communist interference in 2020 election. December 12, 2020, Chinese communists, Democrats rig 2020 election for Biden as U.S. faces martial law. December 1st, 2020, Obama Biden CIA Director Gina Haspel evidently arrested for espionage, voter fraud. November 27, 2020, Trump's 2020 election sting operation ends in mass arrests. And November 17, 2020, software switched Trump votes to Biden tied to Pelosi, Soros, Antifa, Chinese Communist Party. Mass arrests. 847. Pentagon officials arrested, 234 generals detained, 678 military operatives removed. The deep state purge has begun. This is not a drill.
July 7, 2026. Pentagon sources confirm coordinated mass arrests across all military branches. This is not a routine operation. This is a systematic purge of deep state military operatives. The classified operation. Military intelligence has been documenting deep state operatives within the Pentagon for 18 months. On July 7, 2026, they activated Operation Military Cleanse. The numbers are staggering. 847 Pentagon officials detained 234 generals and high-ranking officers, arrested 678 military operatives removed from active duty 4,000 troops deployed across 19 states for domestic operations. 50 states coordinated simultaneously the charges. Treason against the United States coordination with foreign adversaries conspiracy to overthrow the government crimes against humanity violation of military code of justice. The classified intel. Military intelligence intercepted communications proving Operation Military Cleanse protocol removing deep state from Pentagon domestic deployment protocol. 4,000 troops deployed across 19 states. Tribunal authority granted military tribunals authorized for all detainees chain of command restored loyal officers now in control the double strike. Strike 1. Pentagon PURGED. Deep state military operatives removed. Strike 2. Domestic OPERATIONS. 4,000 troops deployed for law enforcement. The panic. The deep state is in absolute panic. They thought the military was compromised. They were wrong. Trump has control of the military. Military intelligence has control of the Pentagon. The purge is accelerating. By July 20, all 847 detainees will be in military custody. By July 25, military tribunals will begin. By August 1, the first convictions will be announced. The truth, this is not a military coup. This is a military restoration. The Pentagon was infiltrated by deep state operatives for decades. Now it is being cleansed. The chain of command is being restored. Loyal officers are taking control. The military is not the problem. The military is the solution. Code. Military Cleanse Active / Pentagon PURGED. TRIBUNALS authorized. The deep state thought they could hide in the Pentagon. They cannot. Military intelligence knows every operative, every communication, every crime. The purge is inevitable. The tribunals are coming. The justice is certain. Global currency reset. E-Judy note. On Thursday, 16 July 2026, several different sources indicated that the Admirals Group has begun their exchanges. Tier 3 Native Americans have received 80% of their monies and bond holders were scheduled to begin their exchanges on Friday, 17 July 2026. Us, the Internet Group, were next and expected to be notified to set exchange redemption appointments at least by Moan. 20 July 2026. F. Thurs. 16 July 2026. Bruce. The big call. A source said Tier 4B. Us, The Internet Group could be notified over the weekend and start exchanges moan. 20 July. New currency rates should be on the Forex on Sun evening 19 July.
On Friday, July 10th, Juan O'Savin posted the below schedule, revealing the final stages of the QFS activation and global currency reset. That is the entire alliance on high alert. Some dates did not happen as posted, so the information has been put in order of events and what we know as of Wednesday, July 15th, 2026. Wednesday, July 15th, 2026, quantum override as the legacy SWIFT died. Federal Reserve neutralized and IRS ended by Trump executive order. Debt Jubilee activated in 209 countries. Tier 4B liquidity distribution started with gold-backed RV, igniting massive wealth transfer to patriots. Deep state financial control shatters. Thursday or Friday, 16th, 17th of July, 2026. Tier 4B and ZIM holders flood redemption centers for exchange appointments at the highest rates. QFS wallets go live for verified users. Cabal encryption keys seized. Children rescued from remaining DUMBs as adrenochrome networks collapse with military raids. July 2026, military tribunals expand with thousands of sealed indictments unsealed.
16 July 2026, the flow has ACCLRATD. Christian B. Wallace bond funds are now moving so fast through paymaster channels that even insiders are stunned by the volume. What was delayed for months is now arriving in waves. This is why private appointments are being scheduled quietly and continuously. This phase is not about waiting. It's about readiness. A few things are now absolutely clear. There will be no straight cash payouts. You will be in full control of your funds. Multiple accounts and structures can be created immediately. Certified advisors will be present to assist with asset management, project selection, and long-term planning. This is structured wealth, not a handout. Prepare your plans and projects now. Those who arrive without direction will be guided, but those who arrive prepared will move faster. Project funding pathways are already mapped inside the system. Security remains tight. Yes, there are still forces that do not want this transition to complete, but all channels confirm the process is protected and stable. You are allowed to bring support to your appointment. Financial advisors, bank contacts, you have already spoken with friends or trusted individuals. Anyone you choose to assist you is permitted. ZIM redemption. As of now, the structure is as follows. No project. 15 million payout regardless of the amount held with approved projects. First 2 100T bond notes redeem at 1-to-1 after that. 25 million per 100T, up to a maximum of 30 bond notes. Further negotiation requires a return appointment. J. Attention. The new valuation matrices are initializing. The quantum financial system has officially taken over the baseline clearing operations for global currency pairs. The banks are being systematically integrated into a gold-backed digital ledger where their access to personal wealth control is exactly zero. My high-level military intelligence sources have just updated the transition clock, and the next sequence activates without further warning. Here is the raw telemetry and the verified schedule for the Tier 4B Internet Group right now. The dinar revaluation mandate the specific orders issued via the Alliance High Command and aligned with the Trump. Phase 2 economic transition have been delivered to the central banking clearing rooms. The live treasury screens are displaying internal rate adjustments for the Iraqi dinar that reflect true resource-backed sovereignty. The old fiat distortion is over. The QFS operational window, the international banking networks have officially shifted to the ISO 20022 communication standard. The unbacked fiat monopolies print-on-demand era is finished. The asset-backed digital currencies, stabilized directly by verified gold, silver, and platinum reserves, are live on the back-end screens. The legacy SWIFT routes have been entirely bypassed. The Tier 4B release schedule, the notifications protocols are active. The safe links are locked into the quantum encryption relays, guarded under complete military-civilian security frameworks. The baseline caps for redemption slots are updating on the interface. Holdings without humanitarian documentation are locked at a designated standard baseline allocation. Holdings with finalized humanitarian structures are transitioning to a one asset backing on primary validation notes. Prepare your multi-account diversification layouts immediately. Bombshell, Trump's second declaration of independence, and the deep state is crashing. Telegram President Trump delivers a second declaration of independence, not with parchment but with raw power. 1776 has officially returned, the chains are broken, and the corrupt deep state system is crashing down right now. The people are taking back control of the republic. Read the exclusive update before it's censored. Update 07052026. With utmost respect for America's founders, the American people issue this second declaration of independence from the foreign cabal that seized the nation. Foreign investors gained control through the 1871 creation of a corporate government in Washington, D.C. They financed recovery after the Civil War, but became masters serving their interests over the people. In 1913, they created the Anti-Defamation League, imposed direct taxation, altered the Senate, and established the Federal Reserve. The United States Corporation formed in 1925 with hidden owners from London and the Vatican, turning states into franchises with leaders serving U.S. CORP first. In 1933, bankruptcy transferred America and its people to U.S. CORP. Gold was confiscated for fiat dollars. Social Security turned citizens into taxable corporate fictions. Admiralty law took hold. The United Nations pushed the New World Order via Agenda 21 and 30 to destroy sovereignty, while operatives undermine America. The deep state and shadow government operatives, guilty of treason, divide the people, censor truth, promote illegal immigration, and disarm patriots through false flags and profiling to hide the greatest heist. This second declaration distinguishes the true America from the illegal foreign-owned United States corporation that has warred against the Republic for over 150 years. It repudiates the satanic New World Order to end liberty. The American people claim ownership of their land, labor, future, and children taken without consent. A bloodless solution is demanded. Dissolve U.S. CORP. Return all assets including gold and silver, redirect taxes to America, and withdraw deep state influence so society thrives. Perpetrators may keep their wealth and positions. As in 1776, this declaration delivers immediate independence. With firm reliance on divine providence, the people pledge their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to restore the constitutional republic. The task force presents this to Congress, the President, state legislatures, and governors. Pay attention in the near future. It's very close. Project Odin equals Ebbs, Christian B. When we know that something powerful will take down the Mossad media satellite. This will cause a worldwide communications blackout, transitioning us to a quantum system. This is called Project Odin. In essence, it provides a reason to activate military EBS. Starlink is up and seemingly ready for the Army to activate the worldwide emergency broadcast system. The Odin project, as mentioned by Ron Code Monkeys, is a powerful cross-platform anti-cheat engine and part of Quantum Starlink. These new quantum systems are protected by secret space programs beyond the reach of the cabal. Q tells us that Mossad media assets will be eliminated. Has repeatedly stated that there will be a big biblical scenario where they present it as World War III, but in reality, they will activate the military worldwide and then start bombing all this satanic place. This will release the NESARA funds, and then we the people will begin to rebuild. This event is truly biblical. Q showed us some of the larger satanic Illuminati sites in the world. Vatican * Buckingham Palace, White House X2, USA, Germany, 3GD in China, CERN at Swiss-French border possibly. Big Pharma in Wuhan equals Israel * Israel Khazarians control CCP, communication, etc. 34 satanic buildings and dams will fall. Many events will also take place such as Rods of God DW, directed energy weapons. Used on Satan-targeted sites, worldwide planes and trains will be grounded. Lights energy will be turned off briefly as they switch to Tesla-free energy. Bitcoin server data center will be hacked and shut down forever. 99.5% of cryptocurrencies will disappear, including Chinese coins. ISO 20022 coins backed by precious metals will be available. WW3 scare event will take place. Nuclear siren * water. Events. The stock market collapsed. Global martial arts rules. Castle Rock background. Julian Assange quantum system. FISA military trial. 10 countries will run EBS for worldwide coverage. Tremendous truths revealed. Trump and Kennedy inaugurations. Israeli Mossad has controlled world media out of America. Project Odin is part of Quantum Starlink. The new quantum system will be protected by secret space programs beyond the reach of the cabal. Satanic media assets will be removed. Israeli intelligence was forced to withdraw. Media assets will be removed after communications are disabled. John F. Kennedy Jr. will appear. To convert to Jassara/greatness, they must play this fake World War III scenario to sound the sirens in each national military command center. This is to justify to the entire planet many things that have taken place. The Jassara military law was implemented, which included secret military tribunals, confessions, executions, etc. As usual, all armies will be there to help build new things. We have achieved freedom, saved our children, and freed the world of corrupt government. Mel Gibson prepares to present evidence to Congress targeting Newsom, Pelosi, Harris, and more. One of the most explosive political and Hollywood stories of 2026 is rapidly gaining attention, as reports claim actor and director Mel Gibson is preparing to bring alleged evidence before Congress involving prominent California political figures and influential names connected to Hollywood. According to sources familiar with the claims, Gibson says he possesses a collection of material that includes visitation records, dates, locations, photographs, and video evidence, which he believes could expose a long-rumored network operating within powerful political and entertainment circles. Among the names reportedly expected to be referenced are Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, Xavier Becerra, Katie Porter, and other California officials. At this stage, none of the allegations have been proven in court, and no official charges related to Gibson's reported claims have been announced. Nevertheless, the story has intensified following reports that Gibson has discussed the matter with President Donald Trump and is preparing to testify before Congress. For years, Gibson has openly criticized corruption inside Hollywood and what he describes as entrenched elite power structures within the entertainment industry. Supporters now believe he is positioning himself as one of Hollywood's most prominent whistleblowers, arguing that the material he reportedly possesses could trigger major political and criminal investigations if formally presented before lawmakers. The possibility of congressional testimony has fueled intense speculation across political media, conservative circles, and Hollywood itself. Many supporters argue that powerful elites have operated for years without accountability and believe the American public deserves complete transparency if evidence supporting these claims exists. Reports circulating around the story also suggest President Trump has welcomed Gibson's willingness to come forward. For many within the America First movement, the situation is being framed as another chapter in the broader effort to expose corruption, challenge political double standards, and confront what they view as entrenched establishment protection networks. The controversy has expanded beyond Hollywood, evolving into a broader national debate over institutional trust, political influence, elite accountability, and whether powerful public figures are held to the same standards as ordinary citizens. Critics continue urging caution, emphasizing that the allegations remain unverified until supported by publicly available evidence and legal proceedings. Regardless of what ultimately emerges, Mel Gibson has become the central figure in one of the most closely watched Hollywood political controversies of the year. Supporters believe the story could mark a major turning point in the debate over elite accountability, while critics insist any conclusions must wait until evidence is presented. Thurs. 16 July 2026, former FBI agent John D'Souza tried to warn us about the real identity of Barack Obama. In 2008, something unbelievable happened for us in the FBI. We were getting lots of rumors about this high-level asset that worked with several intelligence agencies at the same time. He worked for the Saudi Intelligence Service. He worked for the CIA, and he was being developed as a political asset in Chicago, Illinois. It's this individual whose name I don't like to say, who became President of the United States. One of his code names is Renegade. His real name was Bari Sotoro. His mission was to destroy the United States from within. Trump and Israel, I need you all to pay attention to this one thing, because it parallels how people see Donald Trump and Israel. When Ali al-Zaidi became Iraq's new PM in May, a lot of people looked at him as another Iranian-controlled asset with no mind or choice of his own. He would carry out anything Iran would have demanded of him. And they wrote him off and did not look at him as a figure that wouldn't bring any meaningful change to Iraq. Then all of a sudden people turned on their news and seen armed forces storming the properties of Iranian loyalists. There was no announcement. There was no warning. There was no time for media figures to spin this to confuse the citizens. And all of this is happening while U.S. military assist in this roundup of corrupt figures who sold out their country. This is what POTUS wanted before the meeting with the PM in mid-July. And you are going to have people out there still assuming that POTUS is working against the people, that he does not have America in his best interests. Many of their talking points is predicated upon the gray area concerning Israel, where you can't quite make out who's playing for what team unless you are really researching and studying. And we have podcasts, VOs, and influencers muddying the waters. They are making it hard for people to know the difference. This is why Anna Paulina Luna put out that post about upcoming disclosures regarding who is behind these influential online personalities that seem to have been compromised by foreign forces that have ties to Mossad and other factions. People who have misled you will not make it out of 2026 unscathed. Many of them are nervous. They were never MAGA, and you will find out. Some of you already have a suspicion as to who will be coming out with some sketchy ties. What will people do when POTUS starts to turn the tables and uproot all the rhetoric about who he is loyal to? Especially when he is directly behind the purging of corruption happening right now in Iraq. You would think he would be trying to remove Ali al-Zaidi himself since he Q phone, or called Pi phone. Trump QFS Center ISO 2022 on Telegram. The quantum space Q phone will be provided free of charge to all people on Earth. It will be used for internet connectivity, texting and calling, banking, voting, and much more. It will be one of the main credit tools and most urgent expenditures in the daily life for retail consumption and for domestic and international commercial business, and is a subserver to abuse and control the quantum system with stellar Starlink. The Q phone is developed and manufactured in Germany and UK with final software updates in the US. This is a 3D phone, and it is the highest quality. It's a $500 billion manufacturing business in 3 countries. And some other countries like Japan. They are assembled in different warehouses throughout the world. It features a 3D interactive holographic display. QFS will establish a private internet network on triple code and maybe an 8G network. Breaking. UK PULLS troops from Ukraine globalist war scheme IMPLOD on April 29, 2025. The UK abandoned its planned troop deployment to Ukraine, sending shockwaves through NATO. This wasn't a diplomatic gesture. It was a retreat in the face of nuclear retaliation threats from Russia. The globalist war machine blinked. Their plan to ignite World War III has collapsed in plain sight. The so-called defense of Ukraine was always a smokescreen. Behind closed doors, a cabal of NATO insiders, led by Macron's collapsing regime and British deep state operatives, plotted to send 30,000 soldiers into Ukraine. Not to protect, but to provoke. Their real goal. force Russia into direct conflict, and use the chaos to crush national sovereignty, paving the way for global dictatorship. But the mask fell. British intel sources confirmed deploying troops would guarantee nuclear strikes not just on the front lines but on command centers deep in Europe. Russia's warnings were clear. The UK panicked. Macron begged for escalation. Britain flinched. This sudden U-turn shattered the coalition. Peacekeeping was exposed as human shield warfare, a trap meant to justify a world war. Now NATO's Plan B is hiding troops in western Ukraine, far from the fire, while drone swarms, space-based weapons, and experimental assets activate under secret ops like Project BLACKSDAR and Project Asgard. Make no mistake, this is not de-escalation, it's repositioning. The elites are scrambling to salvage control. Financial war plans have been accelerated, digital currency, food shortages, and energy collapses tools to cage the population before the next spark. The betrayal is total. Britain betrayed Ukraine. NATO betrayed its own citizens. The Ukrainian people were never the mission. They were pawns. The mission was global control through engineered war. The globalists failed this time, but they're not done. They're regrouping, and unless people wake up now, their next move will make this one look like a rehearsal.
Lots going on right now, and of course, we were all very interested to hear what Trump had to say yesterday. And it's what I told you he was going to say. He was talking about election interference. I've known about election interference for 5 or 6 years now. I've been watching it happen. We've been able to see what happens live with the quantum voting system. But it had to be brought out in such a way at such a time so that people were not dismissive. They understood it. And that's what's happening. Because if you look back at the Epstein files, they were all dumped. 6 million pages, way too much to even look at. So this is why it has to be dripped out slowly. It's the same with the election interference. Trump has put it out there that China was involved, and they were. But that's just one layer. And when you peel away those layers, you'll find out there's a number of people involved in this from America, from the United States. None more so than people like Barack Obama and the Clintons. And if you've got some sort of a memory, you will remember where they pointed the finger at Donald Trump saying, Russian interference, Russian interference. The fact is that they were involved in Chinese interference. They were involved. They were actually committing treason. Donald Trump was never rigging elections with Russian interference. They were doing it, and they were saying he was doing it. But the evidence is now there, and the evidence is there for you to see. And as we peel back the layers of this fraud that's gone on, not for a couple of years, but for a very long time, and not just in the United States, in the UK, in Europe, in Australia, in Canada, in Mexico, in many other countries. The whole system is corrupt and it's being dismantled. And as we get through this, when we look back, you'll be amazed at how quickly this was all dismantled. While you're living through it, it feels like it's going slowly. I'll tell you, when you look back at this, you'll just go, wow. They managed to dismantle all of that in that period of time and change the whole system. That's what's happening. Morning, Drew.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. Well, today, the UK's grooming gangs inquiry is expanding into Oldham, Bradford, Keighley and London, with survivors now being invited to come forward. Meanwhile, Britain prepares for a new Prime Minister as Andy Burnham takes control of Labour, and police continue a major terrorism investigation after 12 arrests linked to an alleged threat against a large Islamic gathering. Big chances, big questions, and plenty more to come.
But there was also people involved that were in positions of authority. There was judges. There was police. There was members of parliament that were involved. And the first batch got arrested. The first batch of members of parliament in those areas got arrested. The first batch of police got arrested. The first batch of judges got arrested. Oh, you didn't see anything on mainstream media? Well, I'm telling you they did. The fact that mainstream media is not putting it out there suggests one thing. They were involved too. Not just in covering it up. Because when I first heard about this, oh, they've been covering it up. It turns out, yes, they were covering it up because they were actually involved in this.
The real reason they killed SADDAM, JFK, the U.S. launched its shock and awe attack on Baghdad in 2003 despite worldwide protests against it. Countless undocumented stories of Saddam's atrocities and lies about his WMDs were used as justification. Follow the money. What was the financial benefit for the illegal invasion? Saddam Hussein decided to sell Iraqi oil using the EU currency, not the US dollar, which would have weakened the US dollar and undermined the US economy. That is the unpublicized reason for the brutal elimination of Saddam Hussein. The theft and control of Iraqi oil also played a large role.
In Secrets this morning, we have Paul Preston from Agenda 21 Radio is going to be joining us. He has, I've been on his show a couple of times, and I would say that he is one of the most informed people on, the MAGA, and they run a thing. It's called MAGA, Make America Great Again, Political Action Coalition. So incredible, deep insights. I mean, I've got a lot, obviously, 35 years in the SEAL teams at the highest levels, and in the CIA, traveling all over the world in combat zones, some of which are getting hit right now by Iran as the war escalates there between us and the Iranians, trying to take them out of power. So he's got great insights. I mean, I've been on, like I said, been on his show, and he has come forward with information that I didn't even know. So he is extremely well informed, and he's going to be talking about some very important things, I think, that's going to help America going forward. We, the people, get up to speed and so forth. So without further ado, we have Paul. He's in the he's backstage right now. We're going to bring him up here in a second. But like I said, the Iranians are hitting us in Jordan, hitting our bases, air stations in Jordan. I've had a couple of service members that have died, many that have been wounded severely. One's missing. So this is a developing story. So we knew that this would probably get to this point where American service members would start to be, killed, unfortunately. So that's kind of where we're at. But this all stems all the way back, like President Trump has said, 47 years ago. He even said, I think 30 years ago, he was talking about, and I bet Paul probably knows some of this, where he was saying that we are going to have some problems with Iran if we don't deal with this now. And this was like 30 years or plus back, before he was in political office, way before he was in political office. So he has been on the front lines. Paul Preston with Agenda 21 Radio is on the front lines, informing us and keeping us up to date. And Paul, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, Michael, it is absolutely a pleasure and an honor to be with you, and especially at a time like this, in our nation's history. It's pretty an epic time right now.
No doubt. And I was informing the audience that I've done a couple shows with you, and I am stunned with your background knowledge and historical overview of what's going on in America right now. And you guys have really been pushing the envelope, keeping people informed, and bringing people up to date to what's really going on agenda-wise.
Right. Well, the New California State Movement has helped a lot in terms of pushing our efforts forward to inform the public, because, we're one of the solutions to a big problem. But this problem has been growing for a long, long time. And as you were talking about, that this has been a 40 plus, almost a 50-year deal with Iran, but I would actually say it's been much longer than that, predating World War II, with Adolf Hitler and his visits to Iran, or actually it was Persia at the time. And Adolf Hitler's influence cannot be, it's felt today in what's going on with Iran, because it was Adolf Hitler who sort of got the Shah at the time, who was this same Shah Pavarotti, who was the Shah of Iran in 1979. He just got older, but he enamored him and impressed him so much that the Shah at the time gave him the title Hitler Shah.
Wow.
And ultimately that ended up to be Hitler's main history in Persia, because what happened was he declared that the Persian people were the perfect Aryan race. And so the Shah of Iran actually changed the name from Persia to Iran in 1936 in honor of Adolf Hitler.
Oh my God. Wow. Like I was telling you on this, your historical background and knowledge is like second to none. I've never heard anybody, talk about some of the things that you talk about. So another great reveal on this. So, wow. So do you think the son of the Shah, Pahlavi, he's still within that category of maybe influenced by Nazi type of?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
I really don't think so.
Good.
But that's what's something's going on there with the son. But I think he just wants his place back as the Shah. It seems to me that the Shah of Iran kind of learned his lesson after World War II about what was going on with Adolf Hitler. And I think there was some regrets there, but because he leaned much more towards the United States than anything else after that. And he still had his, the British were still a big influence, even the Russians to some degree, but the Iranians were trying to stand on their own and they couldn't do it. So big deal happening.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Iraq, and the Iranian influence was devastating, to speak lightly, of events. Many service members, U.S. service members, on the mullahs that were there, and they destroyed temples and so forth that really inflamed and caused a civil war to break out, and that's all Iranian influence.
Well, yeah, and again, keep in mind this is the Persian Empire you're dealing with, really, and of course, what you have right now, the holdovers at the Iraqi Guard or Republican Guard, I guess they're called. Is there the Iranian Republican Guard? Is that what they're called? The IRG.
Right.
They are Nazis. They are real Nazis, and that's what they have to be looked at as, real Nazis. And they were the ones that, as communist Islamists, overran the embassy in 1979 with Jimmy Carter being president. And again, you can't look at the Jimmy Carter era as an era of strong military force by the United States or a strong United States. It was very much weak. Jimmy Carter really was a early Barack Obama to this country, is who he was. He was selling out like crazy. He sold out the Panama Canal for $1.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to go back and connect the dots, and see which presidents had what kind of connections where. And obviously, Jimmy Carter had some very, very odd connections, and one of them was obviously to give away the Panama Canal. And then also he gave away everything to Iran. And I think he knew what he was doing. I thought it then. I remember back then, because I was way into all this stuff, historically speaking, I always have been. But I can remember that back then that I was telling people, this is a Nazi thing going on. Real simple. And the Nazis never, went away after World War II. In fact, we're now living in what's known as the Fourth Reich. Adolf Hitler survived the bunker. I was at the bunker in Berlin in 1992, and Christoph Neubauer, the guy who was very heavily involved in the Hunting Hitler series, and Peter Levenda, he wrote the book called The Rat Line. I think if people want a perspective, they need to get a perspective by reading his books, The Rat Line, and also The Hitler Legacy, which is what we're living in right now. He dials it in. You read it, and it's all right there, and it tells you all the connected dots to the CIA, to everybody around the world, and especially in Indonesia. Indonesia's got all the wealth of the Germans and also of the Chinese when they took over, or when they lost the Silk Road to Japan. All that money was transferred over. All the gold and wealth was transferred to Indonesia. And so that Indonesia kind of runs the Nazis around the world. But it was a real clear case of after World War II that the Catholic Church was much involved. And again, I'm not rapping on all Catholics, and I come from a Catholic family, so don't, these are real-time history things. The Catholic Church and formed rat lines, and all the German soldiers, high-end German elites were all ushered out and put into various rat lines around the world, and became the world's diaspora for Nazism. Yeah. And of course, a lot of them really settled in the United States. It wasn't just Operation Paperclip, right. But we've had, even up there where you're at, I used to live in Plumas County, right next to you. I recognize the trees, by the way, and I miss them like crazy. I always used to tell people anytime I wanted to really relax, I'd go out my backyard and pull up a chair and just stare at the bark on the tree. And I was good. That's good. But even reports of sightings of Nazis in Plumas County, Sierra County, all any place that looked at Tahoe, there was very much evidence in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even the 80s. And even down here, up around here, we've gotten a number of reports in Marysville, up to Colusa, up to Reading, of various Nazi officials that escaped the war. Well, Jerry Brown, he lives in Colusa County, and the Browns were known to be as Nazi affiliates. And Edmund G. Brown was actually the guy who helped put together the package for Indonesia in the overthrow of Sukarno. And if you read the book by Peter Levenda, you find out that Adolf Hitler was actually actively involved in that overthrow. And so you have Edmund G. Brown comes in as a sharp attorney in the 50s and 60s and arranges the financials for Indonesia. And his deal was that he was getting $1 per barrel of per every barrel pumped of light sweet crude out of Indonesia. And Jerry Brown was his dad.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Of course, Obama comes out of that area too. So that's,
Who does?
Obama.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, Obama comes out of Indonesia, absolutely. And Jerome Corsi's the one. I worked with Jerome Corsi with a bunch of people back 12. It's 20 years ago. Actually, Jerome caught me on this. I said, "Hey, didn't we get together 50?" No, Paul, it was 20 years. So we go back a long ways from Social Security number to the in the channel there, Loretta Fuddy. And the whole idea that Obama was not an American. He wasn't born here. He was born in Indonesia, and he was a Subud. And the Subuds are a special Muslim cult, and he's very much a Subud as his father. If you take a look at Mohammed Subud, anybody look it up. You tell me that's not the template for Barack Obama. Guy looks identical. Phenotypes are in play there, but this whole thing is Nazi aided. I mean, we were one of the first programs with Chris Street who started calling out, asking the questions. Well, why in 2006 did they start flying 200 military-age men every day from Tehran to Caracas, Venezuela? They did this continually until recently when Trump raided Venezuela. So why were they doing that? I mean, think about it. Now, you got the Hitler influence in Iran, and you also have the Hitler influence in Egypt. Hitler was the co-companion to Muhammad what's his name? I can't remember his last name right now, but he helped to form the Muslim Brotherhood. And this is in 1928 in Muhammad al-Banna. And the two of them, and now it's kind of interesting because I go back and check history every once in a while on the internet just to see what's going on. When you get to the Nazi thing, boy, they start hiding stuff. So you won't find a lot of articles now that talk about Obama forming the Muslim Brotherhood, but the telltale history of Obama is that the telltale history is the very first place that he spoke internationally was in Cairo. And what he demanded was that Mubarak free all the Muslim Brotherhood in order for him to speak, that he in Cairo, which was in January of 2009, that he would free all the Muslim Brotherhoods of Egypt, because Mubarak wasn't stupid. He had these guys locked up. They're Nazis is what they are. Wow. And so he had them locked up, and so Mubarak said, I'm not going to do that. And he says, well, you get no more military aid from the United States. So you have them there in my speech. And so Mubarak did. He freed them. And all the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood sat right in the front row of the theater at Cairo University to hear Obama speak.
Wow.
And that was in 2009. And before that, you had the Muslim Brotherhood had already made itself present in the United States and declaring it was going to overthrow the United States.
Jeez.
But so the Nazis are the Nazis. We get it from the Shia Nazis or the Sunni Nazis, and that's the divisions of course the Islam, as you know, the Muslims. You have Sunni Muslims in Saudi Arabia and Iraq, and then you have Shia Muslims in Iran. Right. Two different breeds of cat, but they're cats nonetheless.
And they fight all the time.
So you can see what they're doing with, and maybe now people can understand Trump's strategy in Venezuela, why he went there first the way he did, and it wasn't just because you had the drugs and you had the oil and you had the dictatorship, and oh, by the way, you have the crooked elections, right. But it's a Nazi breeding camp, and of course, what was the main ground force we have today that's inside? We have Trende de Agua, and there's the other big one too that's got worth trillions of dollars. I can't remember the name of that one right now, but these are not good people, and they're in our country, and there's a plan for them. You can bet, you're a military guy, you know how these things work. There's a plan for them to do some sort of emergence, but Trump is doing the right thing. I don't care what anybody says. Right. But this is a battle of epic proportions that I don't think people comprehend yet. And I was really happy that Donald Trump came out and made the speech the other night. It was kind of interesting. You and I and everybody who's in this genre, we all understand what happened with the elections for them. It was crooked, and we just accept it as the norm. But, right. Most of America doesn't get it yet. And it's kind of funny because everybody's looking around like, what did he say? They still don't get it. But what Donald Trump
out in December of 2020.
Yeah.
And said this many votes on this in Michigan, this many votes, I was winning. And then middle of the night, he basically did a big speech, and no one seems to even know that. So he's been ahead of this for a long time.
Well, I have a document that I'm going to post up, and it's a document, and I won't read it right now, but it's a document that I wrote as one of our grievances, because we declared independence in 2018, January 2018. And then we saw the elections, and we saw the rigging that was gone. And we'd already been on top of this as one of the main reasons why we wanted to separate from California, is because, the elections are corrupted. And we knew one way to do this was to break up the union, not break it up, but break up the system. So if we became a state, we would not use any of the machines. We'd be manual. And that can't be tolerated in this, as you know, that it all has to be linked together in one system, else it really kind of falls apart, and you can't use the algorithms properly. And so we would break that up and put a stop to this, because we would determine our own set of circumstances for elections. And that was one of the main reasons why we started, because we saw the election system at the time. But then 2020 comes around, and we were very fortunate to have the numbers guy, and he understood the algorithm. We heard that there was an algorithm being used, but Dr. Shiva reported it. He didn't give it an algorithm, and our numbers guy broke the algorithm within hours. And we had all the data, all the facts and figures at the end of November 4th.
It was like every county, you could see the same process in every single county across the United States. 3,000.
That's right.
Counties.
And our numbers guy had it completely taken down. He had everything in. We sent within a day, we sent everything to Donald Trump. So he knew what the numbers were, at least from us. I'm sure, he's a gambling man. I mean, he sets up casinos. He knows about algorithms and gaming machines and things like that, which is the core of those machines. So I wrote a grievance on December 1st, 2020. And it's very telling about the elections and everything. It spells the whole thing out just from the information we had at hand. But, since then, we've got mountains of information that's more conclusive. But one of the things we pointed out in that writing, before anybody even thought about it, was that there were about 3.1 million missing ballots from California's election system that we tabulated, that the numbers guy figured out. He was the first guy to do it. And he goes, where are these things going? Well, it turns out that all the 5 battleground states used all those votes that were peeled off of California. And when you take those 5 numbers and add them together, it equals the amount that was missing from California. Wow. And our numbers guy figured that out within days, that's where they went. And of course, that's what he was saying on the 20th.
That's how they legitimized the stolen votes in all these different states. Wow. Incredible. Inserted all those votes.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before. It's incredible. Wow.
So this is stuff my point is, Donald Trump gets up and he really does what the president of the United States is supposed to do. He now tells us, he puts the American public on notice. We have been warred against in a big way. People have declared war on us, and we have not declared war on them. This is serious stuff. Serious treason has been committed. High crimes and treason have been committed here. And I think that just by briefly reading over some of the stuff that the CIA has done and the briefings and things like that. It was all treasonous. But then you have your own treason here at home and here in our own states, like Gavin Newsom, Jerry Brown, all these guys. Jerry Brown had a big hand in the 2014 color revolution, and he provided the California National Guard in Kiev as a sniper unit, and the snipers were deployed and they trained Ukrainians and Russians Ukrainians in Kiev. And of course, that's the Antifa style. You get one going against the other and play the middle. It's Hegelian. And that was part of the John Brennan strategy for the overthrow of the Russian that was there. And so now you've got this whole thing going on with the Ukrainian war, which is really what that started. Now, who is at the root of the Ukrainian war? The Azov Nazis.
Oh yeah.
Hello.
There we go. Yep.
They were at the root of that evil. So this is the stuff that we're dealing with. We're dealing with Nazis again, and Putin doesn't like it. And I'm not I like Putin in the sense that he's not any Ukrainian. He's not an Azov Nazi, but he's got his own set of issues and his own set of problems. But I don't think he wants to have another war with Nazis. You got to remember that in 1943. Adolf Hitler decided to invade Moscow, and at a little place called Kursk, the Russians successfully stopped the Tiger tanks that were running over everybody, and they lost about 3 million men in 3 days.
Wow!
So that's a hurt on the Russians, and they don't forget. I've talked to Russians from that area, and they said, no, we lost family, we don't forget. And so this whole thing about Napoleon, Hitler, and Napoleon again trying to conquer Russia is still a big thing fresh in their minds. So that's what they're trying to do, is set up the Azov. The Azov Nazis never disbanded after World War II.
No. And the Nazi concentration camps were in Poland. So
Poland.
They're all in Poland too. Not all in Poland, but in that area right bordering Ukraine.
Right.
That's where they're getting most of the NATO supplies through Poland.
Yeah, there's too many connected dots to Nazis again.
Yeah.
And communists. But
wow.
The communists are not as influential in Russia as they were before. But they've thrown off the communists. And a lot of people still think the Russians are communists, and the Russians aren't communist.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to Iran, all the way back in 1953, when Britain and the United States overthrew the prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh. And that's when Iranian people started to dislike and see as the United States and Britain, of course, as against them. And it's understandable. So they probably used that, I say, for probably a great extent, how they took down the Shah, and then brought in the real Nazis, the ones that are in there right now since for 47 years now.
Well, the idea of Antifa was Antifa. It was started, I think, as a fascist group, whether Mussolini and Hitler quickly adopted them. Yep. And it's the same flag as Mussolini and Hitler used. They're using it here in the United States. I mean, you might as well just throw up the swastika. And but their job under Hitler was one day they're going to be loyalists to Germany, and then the next, and then they, as loyalists to Germany, they're going to go off into a Nazi area that's very much supported by and create trouble in that town. The next day they'll go off and say, well, we're Nazis, we're going to go off to a communist area. So they go communist, Nazi, stirring up the trouble between the two populations. And that's what Antifa does today. It's the same thing. But, people don't understand that history. And of course, there's a lot of people trying to make you forget it. Oh, yeah. But, we can't let that happen. And that it's programs like ours that tell that truth now. You don't get this kind of stuff, this kind of truth on mainstream media at all, not even remotely. Everybody has too much to lose, or as you're finding out with ABC and NBC, they've got a lot to hide, and that's why they didn't broadcast the president.
Yeah,
ABC in particular.
They're executives, and probably down the line, really, some of those reporters are totally, embedded and ingrained, and know what's going on. There's probably a lot of them that are just doing their job, but eventually you figure it out, and you either walk away or you're part of the problem then. Right. And I think that they're just walking away in a lot of places. CNN, as an example, CNN was really very, very strong originally under Turner. Yeah. And then he kind of turned in 92 with the United Nations Agenda 21 business, which is again another Nazi design. How much do you think Jane Fonda influenced him? I don't know. Yeah. I really don't know. But she influenced a lot of Americans to be pissed off at her. It didn't matter. If you were, I lost friends in Vietnam, and my father-in-law was a 3-time Marine in Vietnam. And one time he was also at the Chosin Reservoir. So he was a hardcore Marine. And there's two people he really didn't like. One was Jane Fonda, because of, in his area, he was in northern South Vietnam. He knew all about Hanoi Jane. Yeah. And he also knew about somebody else he considered a traitor, and that was John McCain. Exactly. My father-in-law had no use for that guy. We were at home. I was at his house. My
my wife and I, that was before we were married, but and he had just come home from Vietnam, and it's kind of an interesting story. He pulled up in the C-130 at El Toro Marine Base, and we're out there waiting for him. And so I'd never met him before, and he he signaled me over because I was going to ask for his daughter's hand in marriage, And so he pulled me over, and my dad was a Marine, so I kind of wanted to follow in that history. And he says, Paul, it's nice to meet you, but he says, don't say anything. Just listen to me. He says, if you want to marry my daughter and you're here to ask for her hand in marriage and you want to go in the Marine Corps, I'm going to say no.
Wow.
Now, this is a guy, this guy gave his life and soul to the Marines, of course. And I just sat there and looked at him. He says, what's your answer? And I said, well, I want to marry your daughter. And the war was winding down anyway, but the point is that he had seen enough. He had seen enough and didn't want to come home and say, there goes my son-in-law on that next plane.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to do that. But but the sacrifices that were made by those guys is a very strong influence in our world today, as it should be. It's a place of honor, because now historically looking at it, there was a reason for everything. And I think that there was a reason for the Vietnam situation, that we had to stop what was happening, and we did. We put a big kink in the communists in their takeover, and it wasn't too much longer then, after Vietnam, 73 to 80 and 89, the communism collapsed around the world.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I went through prison of war camp training as a SEAL, and they captured us eventually and stuck us in boxes and tortured us, banged us against walls and all kind of stuff, and psychologically messed with us by playing Jane Fonda on the camp loudspeaker over and over and over again. I after that point, I was like, yeah, Jane Fonda's. If I had any doubts at that point, they were gone after that. So yeah, she was bad news. That's why I wonder, what kind of influence she might have had on Ted Turner. Yeah, because he was. CNN when it first came out was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it was, and I used them when Janet Evans came home from the Olympics, and that's another story of mine. But and I put them in 1988 after the Olympics. She was done with the Olympics, but she came home from Seoul, Korea, and I put the cameraman right in the end of the classroom where she came walking in, and within 15 minutes, the whole world was changing around us. It was amazing.
Wow.
And the collapse of communism a year later actually happened. So that's a whole other part of the story about why I was standing on the bunker, the Fuhrer bunker. But that experience, when I found out the linkage between the Nazis, South America, and the verifiable evidence, that to me, it was very easily verified. When I talked to Christoph Neubauer on the bunker, it was about 3.5 hours of standing there on the bunker. And it was in the middle of no man's land. There's still landmines all around. And by the way, I got to tell you that, and you've walked in many battlefields and stuff, but to be out in that no man's land, let's look like a bunch of dirt and stuff. It wasn't dirt. It was human rubble.
Wow.
About 20 feet deep of human rubble, buildings, bricks, lampshade covers, electrical appliances. They were drilling some holes down to put a fence up to keep people from walking around because there's still landmines out there. And they would drill these holes, and you look in the holes, and they go down about 4 feet, and it's all it is just human, built parts of buildings and steel. I mean, it's amazing to see that whole area was that way. But that shows you how complete that war was. And as I traveled around Eastern Europe, Eastern Germany, I traveled much around the Eastern. I did not find really any communities or towns or villages that were completely rebuilt. Most of them were just rebuilt from the rubble that was around them.
Good God.
That's the way the people lived.
Yeah. Yeah, communism didn't work. And tell that to the Democrat Party. It's like they don't seem to get it. But it's part of the agenda that we know, that we're speaking of and trying to inform everybody of. But yes, never in history has it worked, and it's always, been brutal against people. Eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, and we don't want it to be brutal here, but it's going to get brutal if we don't get our hands on it. And I think that Donald Trump has done the right thing. He's officially done his administrative job, which is to inform the American people officially, as president, as the executive, that we have been attacked.
Yeah,
there is a war going on, and if we don't, he's done it officially. Now he's going to do whatever he needs to do after that. So if he wants to fulfill his responsibilities with the Insurrection Act and so on, being a former superintendent administrator, I get what he did. You tell the public what's going on. You let them know. You put them on notice. Yeah. And look for yourself. He has dumped so much information out. Now, you and I have seen much of that, and we've seen the interviews and stuff. So to us, it's just old hat stuff. But now we have a job. We have a job to convey that information now, and where people are really going to listen to us. I've been getting a lot of requests for interviews and things like that now, and you can tell by my voice I've been doing a lot of talking, a lot of talking. But
as everybody can see, you're an incredible wealth of information. It's stunning, your knowledge and how you've been involved in this for so long. Breaking down wherever you could this system. Now, on your website, you have Make America Great Again Political Action Coalition. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we've got a couple of things going on with a couple of groups, and what we're trying to do is we're going to actually move the. What we're going to do is we're actually going to move the New California state idea across the United States. Oh, wow. And this is something that a lot of people don't necessarily understand, but the California model, the New California model that we have right now, is a model to actually get rid of the corporation constitution that all states pretty much have gotten. And so, in other words, in 1871, the British came in and gave us a corporate constitution for Washington, D.C. And they've always headed up the finances and so on for the United States. And that I'm kind of abbreviating a lot of things, and everybody needs to understand about the corporations. So 1879, California tosses its constitution, and the one that brought it into the Union, the 1850 Constitution, and it's the compact Constitution. Now, there's a difference between a contract, compact, and a corporation in terms of how you guide people. And a government is guided by a constitution. And our Constitution is very rare indeed, as well as our Declaration of Independence and our Bill of Rights. So this compact Constitution that we have is one that's the one that 1850 had, gives us the very first responsibility, and that is to be providing a Republican form of government, not a democracy. The word democracy is never used by the Founding Fathers. They abhorred a democracy. Yeah. Very clearly they did. Every single one of them did. And they did not want to hear anybody talking about a democracy like we talk about it today. And of course, it shouldn't be a surprise that when 1787 comes around and we get the Constitution approved, which is a governance document, it's not a corporation, it puts us, we the people, in charge. It doesn't put a corporation, a board in charge, or investors in charge. It puts we the people, the citizens. We have God-given rights, and through these God-given rights, we create a godly government, one that lives in the light of the Lord. That's basically the way they looked at it. Every founding father agreed that, and you can find the writings of these founding fathers. They are absolutely believing, like I do, that this Constitution is a constitution that's structured for a moral society. And so the Constitution only works if it's a good moral society. And of course, we've turned away from that, because in 1871, the idea of corporations, which is the British way of doing business, by the way, always has been. It's also many of your churches, the Catholic Church is pretty much adherent to this. They come up with the corporate constitution for the District of Columbia. Now, some people say that that was the agreement by which it binds the entire United States to a corporation. That I disagree with that. It was the modeling of that corporation of 1871, like by California. California comes into the Union in 1850. They are using their compact constitution, the one that the Congress agreed to, which says you're going to do the guarantee to all citizens, number one, a Republican form of government, number two, freedom from invasion, number three, freedom from domestic violence. And so they created our founding fathers in California, as did all founding fathers in all states, because all 50 states have a compact agreement. That's the people's agreement with the federal government to be a part of the union. And that has to be approved by Congress. And once it's approved, the first thing it's going to say that the government, the constitution of that state is Republican in form. That's the most important thing of all. Yet everybody doesn't even think about a Republican form of government anymore. And that shows you how far we've gone. So a corporation is not a Republican form. It's a dictatorship. It's a democracy. It always has been. It's got a boss. It's got a line of authority. And then you have the customers. That's it. Every time I go down to my county office down here in Sutter County, there's a sign that's reserved. It's got 3 parking places reserved, and each the signs say, "This is the county of Sutter County, and this parking space is reserved for our customers." Wow. It doesn't say our taxpayers, because Sutter County is a corporation. It's customers. And so, just the little distinctions like that, but that's a big problem, because a corporation is a democracy. It's not a Republican form of government. It's not representative. You don't have people making decisions based upon people all around the nation or the counties or the state coming together and designing legislation, and then it becomes law. You don't have that. You have basically people like right now. I'm the president of the New California State Inc. Now, New California State Inc. is a necessary model in order to build a government, in order to build a constitution that's a we the people constitution. And it's worked well, and I haven't abused it, but it's worked very, very well for our model. And when we get approved, this all goes away as a corporation. It goes away, and we become, the government of California, which is a constitutional government. Awesome. But what happened in 1879 was California was converted into a corporation. And since then, California's conversion has included the following: over 900 changes by way of propositions to the Constitution. Now, Michael, let's see. Our Constitution was amended initially with 10 amendments when it first came out. We've only had 17 additional changes to the Constitution as amendments, either to approve or to withdraw, since 1787. But California's had over about 990 is what it is.
Wow.
And all of it's been money, commitment for money. And guess what? California is now $4 trillion in debt. How's that democracy working out for California?
Not at all.
And we haven't even talked about the voter fraud, and we haven't even talked about the fraud for Medi-Cal, for everything else, which is another $1 trillion plus. It just keeps on going. They're a disaster, and that's why it was easy for us to. It's a communist state, actually, but that's why it was easy for us to follow the West Virginia model and create the states that we have now. And so this model that we've created, we're going to take now. There's about 37 states that have in some way, shape, or form modified their constitution into a corporation, and we're going to put that out there on the line, and we're going to definitely be parading this around, putting this together, and that's in the works. I really can't talk too much about it. I'm kind of avoiding it, but it's
You
exciting.
don't want to give away the plan because they'll stop you out if they know.
Well, I think that with this announcement by Trump and putting everybody on notice, we're now at a different level of operation.
Totally. So open the door for all of like what you're doing, what I've been trying to push, and other people have been trying to push. You can see everyone's pushing harder now.
That's right. That's right. It's kind of exciting. You know, we're kind of like on the other side of this, like, hey, wait a minute. And, you know, we've been putting out letters to the county clerk recorders and to the county board of supervisors and stuff like that about you don't want to find yourself taking and certifying elections that have been using illegal foreign nationals, because that's called felonies. That's exactly what Mullen said yesterday. We wrote letters warning everybody in California, all 58 counties. We delivered them all in one day. One day. Wow. 52 counties were hand delivered in one day, and the rest of them were electronically delivered. But Mullen said that yesterday. He said that these are felonies, and we're going to hold you election officials responsible. And we warned them about this weeks ago. Yeah.
Now I post a lot on social media, X being the main one, but I have this little conversation going back and forth about all these people that are probably going to be held accountable and so forth, and they should come out and talk. And one way to jokingly, of course, I would never expect this to happen. I don't think we're going to go to medieval at this point, but who knows? And then, back in medieval times, they would draw and quarter, disembowel and cut off the head, put it on the
stake,
stakes in front of the White House, and or you can get firing squad and thrown in an unmarked grave. Which would you like to choose or to talk? So, and that's kind of where we're at. Really, we have so many people that are treasonous on an unbelievable level. That caused great devastation. Just the J6 committee alone, and all those people that were locked up, over 1,000, 1,500 that were locked up. I was at one of those trials, and it was a travesty. They would not allow First Amendment rights, and they said it right from the beginning. I was like, what? I'm in the capital of the United States. This is a federal court. There's FBI, DOJ, and this is what they're putting out? Wow.
That's not an American court.
No,
that's a Hitler's show trial.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Those were Hitler's show trials, and I look for the places where they're going to do the Hitler thing, and it's very clearly Hitlerian what happened with the J6ers, very clear, and you see vestiges of that with some of the people that are being questioned right now that are brought before the House. This whole idea of wokeness and everything has all been generated by these same folks, and it all started, in the 70s. And you have Derek Bell as an example. He brought about critical race theory, and Obama adopted the idea because Obama attended Harvard, and Derek Bell was one of his. He admired him so deeply, and Derek Bell saw through with Obama. I think he probably had some idea he was going to be president someday. The opportunity to insert critical race theory into the curriculum of schools. He had to federalize the public schools first, which they did in 2010. But this is the opening for Nazism and all the other evils that go along with it. When you talk about Nazism, it's just not about them putting people in gas chambers. It's the whole psychological trips. It's the psyops. It's everything that go along with Nazism, and there's a lot that goes along with it. Many other things are subtle, but they're there. One of the movies I always recommend if they want to understand it more deeply is Swing Kids. I don't know if I've ever seen Swing Kids. It's a very, very good movie to understand some of the nuances of the Hitler situation. We had one political candidate, and I suspect they're watching right now, but I'm going to tell the story. Running for office, and her daughter was, but again, a political person. This was a recent thing. A political person So the body was cremated, and in classic Hitlerian style, the post office lost the urn.
Good God.
It wasn't enough that in the middle of an election, you lose your daughter, and in the middle of the election, they misplaced the urn.
Yeah,
those are telltale signs.
That's exactly. That's how they tell you. And I would lose YouTube channels because I was putting out some of this information and the election steal and so forth. So I would lose. I would get a notice in my Gmail. I'm thinking my Gmail is completely sacrosanct and I have control of it, but no, I would get a notice from some source that was my YouTube channel was gone, and then I would go and look, and my YouTube channel is still there. And so I would get these little I would get that type of stuff. I worked in the CIA, and we saw the Nazis behind the scenes, like you're talking about. There's those of us that were doing the good stuff, tracking, finding terrorists, taking them out and so forth, drone striking them, my old team, Red Squadron coming in and taking out Osama bin Laden or whoever that was playing him. But, there's a lot of, those of us that are doing the right thing, but the way they hide is they have non-disclosure agreements by all of us not to talk about anything. And then everything's compartmentalized. So you see these other groups that are out there and you can't speak out. You can't, and Obama stopped that. He was like, if you want to whistle blow, then we're going to let you. And then all the whistleblowers, they hammered them. They destroyed them.
Yeah, they destroyed them, right.
That showed all the whistleblowers what's going to happen if you whistleblow. So we knew that we couldn't speak out. And a lot of my buddies over the years are like, why didn't you ever speak out? Do you remember when we used to sign NDAs? So they were like, oh yeah. So they'll destroy your life. And they did destroy my life. And, I've been able to work back, thankfully, and have an incredible guests like yourself on to, talk about all this craziness and make sense of it so that we can bring it down.
Well, that's the key thing is that there's been a lot of pain on a lot of people. And I'm not immune from that. But I've learned from it that God has me here for a reason. And like with you, and I tell all the people in New California that we are here. God has us in this room, in this program for a reason. And that is definitely that we understand much more so than the general public, and we can convey. See, now we're communicators because we have our own TV channels and things like that. One of the greatest things that happened is the internet with being able to broadcast like this. I've been broadcasting like this since 2006, I think, and then you can't listen. I can't do anything on YouTube. They took everything down, 15 years of videos and everything, and then I can't even, I can't even comment on a YouTube video. It's forbidden.
What it was for me, and I don't know what changed when Trump came back in. Because when Trump came back in, I got my X account back. I tried over and over again and got blocked out, knocked out, and I was like, okay, that's in Twitter. And then Elon bought it, and Trump came back, and I was like, well, maybe I can get back in. So I'm back in X. I'm back on YouTube. They still restrict to a certain extent, but mostly I speak out. Like we're live in X and YouTube right now, and this is like huge what we're talking about. So.
Well, I don't want to get you blown off of YouTube.
I know, because I was that way too. And I would do a show with people, and they put it up on YouTube, and they get like their whole channel, lose their whole channel. I was like, sorry, I told you. So,
yeah, they didn't want that to happen.
Yeah,
but these are truths. There's nothing unfactual about what I'm talking about. It's all you have to really. Now it's going to be more difficult to find the information, but you'll just have to dig deeper to find it. Especially what they're really doing a big cover up on the Hitler thing right now. And but the telltale sign is Obama, because Obama walks in his footsteps. And that was always what that was about.
No kidding. That totally makes sense now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's the new Hitler. How about
Well,
that?
he was, and you keep in mind that as the warm up, the guy comes out of nowhere in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
So he kicks out Hillary Clinton as the candidate for 2008,
Yeah.
and that was all bizarre. But what was even more bizarre was he was a two-term senator for Illinois to the U.S. Senate, and he was never around. And he spent quite a bit of time in the Ukraine as a senator. Now, of course, what was happening then in the Ukraine was Ukraine used to be a big industrial center. That was the heart and soul of the industrial center for the Soviet Union. They built the rocket motors. They had, they had tank factories. They had the whole 9 yards, shipping and all that was coming out of Ukraine. And as soon as the Cold War hit, it started to decline, but it was still a huge center. But the Ukraine and the Nazis never left. And of course, that's been the biggest bugaboo. But the Ukraine's a classic example, or Russia's a classic example of this warfare that we're all seeing and dealing with. They're dealing with it on their end. But it's never going to go away unless Donald Trump comes back to the words that he's talking about with Iran right now. That's when it's going to go away. And it might be a tough slog, but there's worse to come if we don't stand up to it. And that's why it's so good that we're doing this now. That's the learned thing. We've learned these things. You and I can tolerate these things. Other people can't, but we can lead them through it by what we're doing on our radio, on our programs here.
Yeah. And, that's a very good point. We know now that the Nazis came over and started the FBI, CIA, and all these other better agencies. So there's that undercurrent. There were those of us that knew it and decided we were going to work around it. So there is the possibility that, these organizations can be won back because there are really, and if you're a good person, and like I was talking about, you wanted to speak out, you would be destroyed. I saw people speaking out, they were boom, gone and destroyed, And so I was like, okay, that's the way this is. So we'll just quietly do what we can until hopefully the opportunity arises where we can push back and take down this system. And I think that's what President Trump is offering for us. But we have to get involved.
He has called them out now.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever called them out. And, we've called them out, but, who are we compared to the president? He's got the bully pulpit and he used it. And I'm glad he did. We wrote 190 grievances and I think 30 declarations and proclamations, and we read them down at the state capitol and all that stuff. And almost every single one is demanding that he declare an insurrection and invoke the Insurrection Act and take over, do the things he needs to do.
Yeah. That
was started in 2018. And, it seems like that's a reality now, closer, only because circumstances are different. In 2018, people are thinking we're a bunch of wingnuts. Right. By 2022, after the election of 2020, they're going, man, you guys may be onto something, And now all of a sudden, it's resonating. We know we're resonating. We know that it's the hum is there, and the excitement is building, and you can see it. But and it's about time. He said, yeah, but we needed Donald Trump to do what he did the other night, and the whole nation needed it because we needed to hear the truth about what really did happen in 2020. And it was already happening before that. We all know that are in the know. But 2020 was their Waterloo, I think, even though they stole the election and we had the problems that we had with Biden and all the other stuff. We were invaded. In the Constitution, Article 4, Section 4, the guarantee clause, it says the three things that a state and the federal government have to do for you and I, as we the people, we are the citizens, is they have to provide a Republican form of government, which is the representative government, and freedom from invasion, that's number 2, and freedom from domestic violence. And like I tell people in California, do we have freedom from that? And the answer is no. And we haven't had for a long time. And this country hasn't had it for a long. And we saw a classic demonstration in which the entire Constitution was surrendered by Joe Biden, and our borders were open for millions to come across.
Yeah.
That's called an invasion. You
Yes.
can't say it's not. And, one of the other things, too, that proves the invasion is that we talked about this on our radio show this morning, that all the people that came across the border, what was the one thing that they took from them? Their IDs. Their photo IDs. Everybody had to get rid of their IDs. Now, one of the phenomena that we have out here in California with the DMV is that they're issuing licenses with people's that don't have a name on them.
Whoa, really?
And yeah, you look at the driver's license and it says no name given. Now, what that means is if they get pulled over by the highway patrol and they get no name given, that's a state entity that issued that. So if there's no name given, they don't have a database on this person. And you know what they do? They let them go. They don't give them a ticket.
Incredible.
No, they don't. And they can't be charged with anything.
Yeah. No, I remember when I was in here after I left the CIA, I was scrounging for work, and I was a casino manager, securities casino manager. And we were busting a lot of young people that were trying to use fake IDs, and a lot of them. I mean, the IDs were like incredible. You looked at them, you're like, no way, that's fake. And then we used the blue light on them, and you could see all the inconsistencies. It's like, oh yeah, that's just a fake. You're going to have to see the sheriff, and they would invariably say that they were coming from China.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. So China's been at this for quite some time.
Well, China was making our ballots too.
Oh, yeah. Right.
They were flooding I call it flooding the zone. It's a football term. They were flooding the zone with ballots. That's how we got so many extra ballots in so many different areas. But and again, Runback and all these other companies they're all part of the schemata, the system that's out there. And China, but this whole ID thing is it's starting to catch on. I mean, this is something that's a serious problem for drivers. Not only that, but criminals. These guys have a ticket to paradise without any kind of charges being filed against them.
And so we can kind of go back as far as like the steal, like we're talking about, to Hillary Clinton. When she basically got her senatorship in New York after JFK Jr. had his plane crash, and that was on purpose because he was going to win that, no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
She wanted that spot. And then she lost to Obama because they decided, she probably wasn't even aware that he was going to win because that's the way they work these things. So she thinks that she's going to get it. And then all of a sudden, boom, that's the way it's crazy. These people depend on and believe that they're sacrosanct and they're going to be treated well. And then of course in 2018 when she came in and she lost, she was dumbfounded then too, but that was because we came in. Now JFK said that he was going to blow up the CIA in 1,000 pieces, and he had that speech, but he didn't have the information that Trump had online this time. So there's a lot of similarities between President Trump and JFK, because that one art center in DC, there was John F. Kennedy, and President Trump put his name on there too, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, how can you do that?" But there's a lot of stuff we're seeing, and JFK Jr. and Donald Trump were good friends, and so there's a lot of interesting things happening. And Hillary Clinton said that Trump stole the election from me by the Russians. The Russians did it. And we need to look at his tax. And of course, we found out Russians didn't do it. And President Trump's taxes were perfect. And she said, we should use China. She said it way back. We should use China to go after the Republicans because they're so bad using the Russians. So they're telling us what they're doing for a long time.
Yeah, they have been, and the numbers that we pulled, Michael Yon and others giving information on this, and now even some of your federal officials are starting to talk more about the truth about how many came across the border. Yeah. And we were making some rough tallies as we went over the months, years. I was way over 100 million, and other people were say no, it's 100 million, and then they come out with, oh, it was only 10 million. No, wait a minute, there's another zero there, easily.
Really?
If
Wow.
you've ever been down at the border, if you're ever down at the border and watched some of that circus down there with all those men in particular, it was always, middle-aged or military-age men that were lining up. You'd realize that, I saw 7,000 to 10,000 people in one day. And I wasn't even looking hard on the border. I was just in a couple locations.
Right.
And it was, if you're figuring that kind of, just that number in itself is going to put you at 20, 25, 30 million out of San Ysidro, San Diego. And what about Texas, which was wide open, for so long. And so
Thanks,
that's,
Greg Abbott.
yeah.
Republican, not rhino, yes.
Yeah. Well, we define rhinos and dinos now.
Dinos, huh?
Democrats in name only. Does that make sense?
That
So
does.
you have
Right.
Republicans in name only and dinosaurs. No, Democrats. So we've got some artwork that we're working on to put that together. It's pretty hilarious. The dinosaurs are well represented in the artwork, but we have a monoparty system in California.
Mhm.
We don't have any Republicans and we don't have Democrats. The Democrats are communists. They're Nazis. Either actually, the Democrats are the communists and the Nazis are the Republicans. That's really what they are. And when it breaks down, but now they've melded into this uniparty, and there's only a few good Republican conservatives, and there's no Democrats that have surfaced of any note. Now, I think there are some, but they're too timid to come forward,
Sure.
and make themselves known. And it's really sad. They get elected to an office, and it's in them. They just don't do it. They're scared. And so that's what fear does in a totalitarian mindset, in a government being ruled by by a one-party system. And the only way to stop this is to create a new state. That's the only way you do it.
Wow. And you guys are doing it. It's just happening. So that's amazing. So let's how can people reach you?
Well, the best way to do is go to newcaliforniastate.com, newcaliforniastate.com. There's an 800 number there, also 877-828-2753. That's another way to get a hold of us. You can we answer the phone right. Well, it's an answering service, but we get back to you within just a few minutes normally. And we have a big thing coming up this next weekend on the 25th. We're going to be down in Pacific Palisades, and we have a hearing. A legislative hearing. And one of the things that sets us apart, remember I said December 1st, 2020, I wrote an article, a grievance about the elections. And December 2nd, 2020, we opened up our very first legislative hearing. We used members of our Assembly and Senate to conduct hearings up in Shasta County.
Yeah.
And we spent about 6 hours up there. We had about 75 people total, but about 25 who testified. And by the end of the day, we're in hog heaven here with evidence of fraud. I mean, it was just blatant. We had one home center that they probably had 500 ballots that were sent to us, and only 30 people. It was one of those kind of deals. I mean, we had fraud everywhere. And so we decided we're going to go back a second day. So we went back. And our second one was held in Shasta just 4 days later on the 6th. And again, more information. And nothing has changed up there in Shasta. It still is running a fraudulent type of system, no matter what their systems they're trying to put in there. The key factor is the machine, that all the machines need to go. You can't just have one or two counties. All the machines need to go, and the mail-in ballots need to go. And Donald Trump laid that out very clearly. Now, that's just something that we've been saying since then. We filed a lawsuit after those two hearings, and to stop, because we knew the numbers. We knew that the numbers for Donald Trump winning California was 15,800,000, and Biden was only 4,600,000. That was the reality check. But Gavin Newsom and Alex Padilla, who was the Secretary of State at that time, they managed to pull a fast one, and we saw what they were going to do. So we filed a lawsuit in December 14th, and the courts wouldn't hear it. If we had had our day in court, it would have gone to the Supreme Court immediately, and we would have stopped the J6 situation.
Wow.
They wouldn't have counted. They wouldn't have counted. The fact of the matter is that Alex Padilla never signed the certificate of certification for the 2020 election. Listen to that. Alex Padilla was the Secretary of State. He never signed it. And we have the evidence. We got it during discovery. We got the evidence to put right in our lap. And all we needed to do is just bring it to court, but the courts wouldn't hear it. We filed motion after motion to shorten time and everything, but they just wouldn't do it. And finally, we got a hearing date for April 7th. Wow. There you go. Plenty of time to stop the 2020 elections. The counting. But there were some big mistakes made. It was deliberate though. And I think the J6, if you study Nazi Germany, there was another situation called the Reichstag was put on fire. Yeah. And people, if they want to see the mini operation that took place of the Reichstag fire, which transmitted into the Capitol J6 event, that's it, because the parallels are uncanny.
Really?
They're following the model. That's right. And wow. I've been to the Reichstag just before they started to really reconstruct it in 92. And if you learn the history of the Reichstag, you know that that's exactly what they were doing, complete with Ukrainian military operation. I'm sure you've talked to enough of the J6ers. You've been to the trial. There were actual Ukrainians in uniform in the Capitol. They were invading. We were at war with the Ukraine.
I was there and I saw all kinds of anomalies. I don't know if they were EMPing or whatever, but no one had cell service. I'm sure that was on purpose so we couldn't report. But I saw, I took videos. Of course, I put those on YouTube and they took their YouTube channel down. But I had lots of information that was anomalous that should have been red flagged all over the place. And now we know that we're, over 100 FBI agents that were all in the crowd.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. That was definitely a Nazi organization that was happening there.
But study the Reichstag fire and how it got Hitler to come to power. And I think that I really think that we as a nation are better people than what the enemy thinks of us.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that our Constitution really is effective in all different ways, much more so than people realize. We've held this country together in the face of this internal enemy, but we are going to be tested again in many ways. I have no doubt in the last part of this whole trip, they're going to do something stupid. And if it's warfare causing large mass casualties or something like that. But I don't think these people want to go away silently. And I think that every American has to have his head on a shoulder, head on a swivel, your shoulders on a swivel, your head on a swivel. Yeah, I used to coach football too, and I used to say that too. But anyway, it's time to do that. It really is time to do that, and take stock in what you're doing as an American. But the one thing you want to do is go back to your biblical beliefs, and you want to go back to the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, read it, learn about it. We're going to be offering some programs here in the next 6 months to the whole nation, we think, and cross our fingers. In other states, we're also going to be migrating to other states with our program. Good. And get involved, because once you start to figure it out, it's a phenomenal thing. Once you start to figure out the power within that Constitution given us by God, the God-given powers, it's a whole different life-changing experience, and you view government completely different, and you view your enemies completely different. You know who they are, and they don't like it. One of the biggest problems that they have in Great Britain and around the world is the spread of the Declaration of Independence, because the document's unique. It's never been done in mankind's history or the Constitution, And when we declared independence, it took them a couple months just to figure out what the definition of independence was, because the word was a new word. It came out in 1661, and it wasn't much in the vernacular. But the founding fathers weren't stupid. They were very bright men. They figured it out. And we all know today what it means, primarily because we have a Declaration of Independence. That's what I believe. So the word of mouth back to England, it took them 3 months to get the paperwork there to read it, and another 3 months to figure out what that word meant. And the king just blew it when he figured out what it was. So wait a minute, we can't have this. By then, though, after our revolution and so on, you started to pick up other colonized areas in Central and South America. And the spread of the Declaration of Independence was on. It spread, and the Constitution spread to every single country that we call a country today in Central and South America. And they all formed republics. They all formed republics, which is what they're all supposed to be. They're not now, and a lot of them had infiltrators, and the churches come back strong and stuff like that, like in Mexico. And they don't adhere to their constitutions. Bukele is, he works. There's a guy who's recovered the Constitution and a Republican form of government. It can happen. And now we are going to do the same here in California, in New California, and then the rest of the nation. So it's going to be a big deal.
Benjamin Franklin, that famous quote, "A republic, if you can keep it, madam."
That's right.
What kind of form of government do we have now? So that's where we're at. I don't think that we've done a good job of keeping it. Democracy is, everybody thinks democracy is, and the Greeks are like, that's the worst form of government. So, and the best is a republic, and that's why the founding fathers chose a republic.
That's right, and it's up to us to maintain it.
Yeah,
that's our job. That's our God-given right to maintain it. And God has us in charge, by the way. When I speak to these crowds and I tell people, God has you in charge now. He's given you the strength, and you're in charge. You have God-given rights. You're in charge, and they look at you like, what? And then you can you keep on talking, and they're thinking about it. What an option! Wow, God's on my side. Well, yeah, He is. He is for us Americans. He really is. It's just, you have to realize what side of God you want to be on.
Oh yeah, which side? Evil or good? So there's only
one side for God, and the other side is not for God. It's evil. So, totally. But that's our foundational Christian beliefs, and we are a Christian country. And I'm not knocking other religions. Don't get me wrong. Our nation always brings in all religions, except we're not going to treat Islam very well, because I don't believe that's a religion.
Yeah,
I think we're having problems there. So that'll have to change. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
my money is on the Constitution.
Mine too. Yeah, it's going to happen. Hopefully, it won't be too much of a fight to get it back there. But I think it's going to be like you're warning. I've been warning. You need to have your head on a swivel, and because things are going to get pretty crazy, because they're not going to give it up. The Nazis have never given anything up. So there'll be fight to the end.
Yeah, the good news is that we're outing the Nazis.
Yes.
And that's another factor. We have to out the Nazis for what they are.
Yeah.
And that's going to really throw them off. But you know what? We are Americans, and that's our job for the world. We have a heritage with the world, and God has us here for a reason, like I said. And evil is what we stop.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Paul. It's been an honor to have you on. Wow, you're just, like I said in the beginning, everybody's going to be in for a treat, because you're just a wealth of information and insight. So thanks so much.
Well, thank you for having me. And, come to one of our functions. I got to invite you to come down to one of our many functions. But we're going to be down in Los Angeles at Pacific Palisades with this hearing. And, boy, it's going to be, I think, a Donnybrook of information coming out because of what's going on with Gavin Newsom and what's going on with Bass and that whole crew. But, they're Nazis. They are Nazis. You can't get around it.
That's fantastic. I love that. So, and what date is that?
It's going to be the 25th, and there's a flyer on the website, newcaliforniastate.com, and you have to reserve a position. It's open to everybody, and we don't discriminate, but we are respecting the privacy of the location because they've had so much, that it's in an area that's burned. And so they've had a lot of problems, and we want to respect that. We'll get the email out about the location the day before, so you'll have plenty of opportunity to get there and have directions and so on. But we didn't want people nosing around places now, days before. That would be a most inconvenient. So we just put it that way. So it's going to work out well.
Very good. And I put that in the chat, and it'll be in the description box, guys. But this my information gets shared without my consent quite a bit. So that's why I have my guests say, give the information of where they can contact you and so forth. So yeah, again, Paul, absolutely incredible. Like I said, we'll put everything in the description box, and the links are in the chat right now. So you guys got it. So get involved. We can't get our Constitution back and get our republic back unless we, the people, because it's made for we, the people, and we, the people, have had it stolen from us. So we have to get it back. And it's going to be a little bit of everything's on our side. The president, the military, for the most part, and a lot of people within all these government institutions, agencies are wondering, when can we, push back on this? And now here we go. It's go time.
Yep. Michael, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Restored Republic via GCR. Judy note, of the 460 federal judges recently arrested by Trump's global military alliance, 47 were charged with coordinating intelligence with China, Iran or Russia, 89 were charged with protecting drug cartel networks, blocking prosecutions, 156 were charged with blocking election fraud investigations, and 168 were charged with coordinating with deep state operatives and blocking military investigations. Patriots, we have serious problems that Trump and the global military alliance were in the midst of solving. July 14, 2026. Prepare for Phase 1 blackout. Rolling blackouts all across the world happening now. Travel restrictions. Emergency lockdowns. Virtual ID to enter businesses. Tonight will be biblical. Soon every cell phone on the planet will be hit with 7 trumpet sounds transmitted from the Starlink satellites, bypassing the elite-controlled media channels. The alliance has spent years preparing for this announcement, quietly building a network of satellites and secure communication lines. Over it, President Trump will give 7 messages to the world about a new era of freedom about to begin. Early twos. Morning July 14, 2026. The Pentagon insider on Telegram published that the final hours of your old life are ticking away. When tomorrow comes, the game is over. The suffering ends. The deception crumbles. You will remember this moment forever. The old system is collapsing, nothing can stop it now. Your life, your reality, everything you thought was permanent, was just an illusion. The chains are breaking. The lies are dissolving. The new world is emerging before your eyes. Biblical, historical, divine. WWG Wonga. A. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. 2s. July 14, 2026. Fox News, Hillary Clinton whipped up the plan, Obama greenlit the operation, the mainstream media gaslit America, and Brennan's CIA did the dirty work, along with the NSA and FBI. An American coup d'etat was executed against President Donald Trump. The 2020 election was rigged and has been ruled invalid. Trump was believed to have won by an over 80% majority as verified by a military count of election votes on watermarked ballots during the November election. All federal and state officials' positions were null and void as well as any legislation they passed. Many counts of election fraud in various states have been verified since. Dominion machines used in many states were rigged and run by a CIA office in Germany. The Democratic Party was discovered to have worked with the Chinese Communist Party and 65 foreign countries including Venezuela to take control over U.S. voting infrastructure in at least 28 states. Attacking 7 key states and over 600 county polling locations to swing the 2020 election to Biden. The CCP leveraged financial, non-governmental and foreign allies to acquire influence. Electronic voting machines were compromised and millions of invalid ballots were used in the election. Be possible timing, twos. July 14, 2026. Prepare for Phase 1 blackout. Nationwide cyber blackout triggered by the cabal. Media, radio networks and phone communications could be shut down simultaneously. Rolling blackouts all across the world happening now. Travel restrictions. Emergency lockdowns. Virtual ID to enter businesses. Tonight will be biblical. Wednesday, July 15, 2026. Martial law declared. Black Hawk helicopters conduct Capitol storm drills in Washington, D.C., signaling full readiness for martial law enforcement. At the same time, global activation sequence begins. BRICS Alliance goes live alongside Nizar Jazar implementation and full rollout of the Quantum Financial System, QFS. Thursday, July 16, 2026. President Trump to address the nation and expose the fraudulent 2020 election, which invalidated the Biden administration, all of Congress and any legislation that they passed. The EBS timeline, Phase 1, July 2026, military secures networks. Trump takes control. Phase 2, August 2026, test broadcasts begin. Public prepared. Phase 3, September 2026, the Great Broadcast. Truth emerges. Crimes exposed. Phase 4, October 2026, new era begins. Humanity liberated. See Global Currency Reset, Thursday, June 25, 2026. Bruce, the big call. The military has shut down communication with Bruce's sources. The Global Military Alliance mass arrests in 21 cities should be wrapped up by noon Wednesday, July 15, 2026. Twos. July 14, 2026. Redemption centers active right now in the U.S., Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix, New York City, Philadelphia, Seattle, and we're about to go active in Texas, Florida, Arizona, and Pennsylvania. Monday, July 13, 2026 marks, the Indian nations have received 80% of their funds. What lies ahead? Web 3.0 ISO 200. What's about to unfold is not chaos. It's not collapse. It's a carefully coordinated global reset under military command, a transition decades in the making. Temporary blackouts, communication cuts, and power disruptions are part of a controlled operation, not a breakdown. Every move has been accounted for. Every second calculated. The Quantum Financial System, QFS, is already live. Once the blackout begins, it will override all corrupt financial systems, securing your identity, assets, and data through biometric encryption. Your bank accounts will be safe. Your information protected. Fraud-proof. Tamper-proof. Immutable. During the 10 days of darkness, all mainstream media and social platforms will go dark. There will be only one secure broadcast channel, operated by the U.S. Space Force and allied military units, delivering uncensored truth directly to the world. What you'll see will shake humanity: confessions from those you were told to trust, tribunal footage exposing global crimes, proof of suppressed technology, stolen history, and systemic control. You will learn the truth about the deep state, about how entire nations were enslaved in plain sight, and why this moment is the storm we've been warned about. A new era of communication is also coming. The Quantum Communication System, QCS, will replace the surveillance-based Internet. Every individual will receive a private, untraceable ID connected to the quantum grid. No more spying, censorship, or data manipulation. Military and National Guard units will be deployed globally. You may see curfews or road closures. This is not martial law, it is strategic containment to ensure peace and protect the public. Everything is temporary. Everything has purpose. Remain calm. Stay grounded. Help your neighbors. This is not the end, this is the beginning of true liberation. The illusion is collapsing. The old world is dying. And what rises next will be built on truth, justice, and sovereignty. Trust the mission. Trust the timing. The reset isn't coming, it's already begun. F2s. July 14, 2026, Pentagon Military Intelligence confirms. The emergency broadcast system activation is imminent. Trump administration has full control. The deep state cannot stop what's coming. Operation EBS Activation 0701. The moment has arrived. Military intelligence intercepts confirm the timeline is accelerating. The emergency broadcast system will activate within weeks. When it happens, every screen stops. Every device. Every frequency. Every nation. Only truth. The EBS timeline, Phase 1, July 2026, military secures networks. Trump takes control. Phase 2, August 2026, test broadcasts begin. Public prepared. Phase 3, September 2026, the Great Broadcast. Truth emerges. Crimes exposed. Phase 4, October 2026, new era begins. Humanity liberated. Pentagon intelligence leaks, the EBS activation is locked in. Trump has the codes. Military controls the networks. When it happens, mainstream media is permanently silenced. Truth flows for 72 hours straight. Military insiders confirm we've secured every satellite, every broadcast tower, every communication system. The deep state tried to stop us. They failed. Activation is unstoppable. The world is about to wake up. The conspiracy: for decades, deep state controlled all information. They used mainstream media as weapon. They silenced truth. They imprisoned patriots. They murdered whistleblowers. Now military has control. EBS broadcasts truth for 72 hours. Every crime. Every conspiracy. Every lie. What happens when EBS activates? Your phone receives emergency alerts. Every TV broadcasts the same message. Every radio carries the signal. Internet goes dark temporarily. Then truth emerges. Arrests begin. Trials broadcast. Justice served. Deep state is panicking. They know EBS activation is coming. They're creating distractions. Fake news. False flags. Manufactured crises. Do not be fooled. Military is in control. Trump is in command. When will it activate? Soon. Very soon. Signs are everywhere. Military movements. Communication blackouts. Unusual government activity. Countdown is real. Timeline is locked. Prepare yourself, stock supplies. Inform family. Prepare for 72 hours of continuous truth broadcasts. World will never be the same. Humanity is about to be liberated. Mainstream media will deny this. They will call it conspiracy. They will try to stop broadcast. They will fail. Military has control. Trump has codes. EBS activation is unstoppable. G. Announcement and implementation of NISR/JASAR laws. On 10th of October 200, President Bill Clinton had no interest in signing NISR into law even though the Supreme Court had ruled NISR valid. So, under orders from U.S. military generals, the elite Naval SEALs and Delta Force stormed the White House and under gunpoint, forced Clinton to sign NISR into law. During this time, Secret Service and White House security personnel were ordered to stand down, disarmed and allowed to witness this event under a gag order. NISR law implements the following changes in the U.S. 1. Zeroes out all credit card, mortgage, and other bank debt due to illegal banking and government activities. This is the Federal Reserve's worst nightmare, a jubilee or a forgiveness of debt. 2. Abolishes the income tax. 3. Abolishes the IRS. IRS employees have been transferred into the U.S. Treasury National Sales Tax Area. 4. Creates a 14% flat rate non-essential new items only sales tax revenue for the government. In other words, food and medicine will not be taxed, nor will used items such as old homes. 5. Increases benefits to senior citizens. 6. Returns constitutional law to all courts and legal matters. 7. Reinstates the original title of nobility amendment. Hundreds of thousands of Americans under the control of foreign powers will lose their citizenship, be deported to other countries and barred from re-entry for the remainder of their life. Millions of people will discover that their college degrees are now worthless paper. 8. Establishes new presidential and congressional elections within 120 days after NISR's announcement. The interim government will cancel all national emergencies and return us back to constitutional law. 9. Monitors elections and prevents illegal election activities of special interest groups. 10. Creates a new U.S. Treasury, rainbow currency, backed by gold, silver, and platinum precious metals, ending the bankruptcy of the United States initiated by Franklin Roosevelt in 1933. 11. Forbids the sale of American birth certificate records as chattel property bonds by the U.S. Department of Transportation. 12. Initiates new U.S. Treasury bank system in alignment with constitutional law. 13. Eliminates the Federal Reserve System. During the transition period, the Federal Reserve will be allowed to operate side by side of the U.S. Treasury for 1 year in order to remove all Federal Reserve notes from the money supply. 14. Restores financial privacy. 15. Retrains all judges and attorneys in constitutional law. 16. Ceases all aggressive, U.S. government military actions worldwide. 17. Establishes peace throughout the world. 18. Releases enormous sums of money for humanitarian purposes. 19. Enables the release of over 6,000 patents of suppressed technologies that are being withheld from the public under the guise of national security, including free energy devices. Your birth certificate is where it all begins. This is where much of the corruption begins. The moment you sign your BC, it is maritime law. You are actually signing a form at sea. You become a commodity of the system, and honestly, you Google it, you research it, and you probably have to be fair like I said, but it's true. You become in a sense, they seize all the assets and go into what they call a trust fund, and then you have 6 years to declare yourself alive. Declare yourself still here, and then you can regain your sovereignty. But we didn't know that. It was a system they had set up so that you and I and everyone else were traded like cattle on the stock market. So each of us has a trust fund. And depending on how old you are, it depends on how much money is there. So if you're over 50 or something, you've got millions in there because that's how long we've been traded for. And this is another thing that is also crazy. That's why the mortgage system is absolutely ruined. So when you go for a mortgage, you basically sign the papers and they always tell you, come back in 3 days and we'll have the money. They then take that money out of their trust fund to pay for the house. So, that comes out of your trust fund in your name, which has been growing since you were born. They then charge you interest on your money, but they don't care about the monetary side. They want the house. So if you miss a payment, they'll miss out immediately, because they can repossess your house. For them, the house is a commodity, an asset. Wait to share what the banks do, but this trust fund is where much of your money will come from and be returned to you. This is their money that they have earned from you. Then you also have the tax side. Taxes have never been taken from us, it is illegal. It is a corrupt system. So, all the taxes that we pay, it is not that they are going to return them to us, like the exact amount of taxes that we paid. What I have heard on the channels is the fact that it will be bond-based, so at a certain age you will get so much money back, at a certain age this. I think the 62 plus category was like 110K or something like that. But obviously they'll know more about that when it comes, but that's where more money comes from. This is money that was ours, that should be ours, that we should have been living with to create a better life. Instead, they have put us in this corrupt system where they have been fighting, and they are taking all of our money and keeping it for themselves. For themselves. Many people ask where this abundance comes from. Remember that the 1% controlled 99% of the wealth that now comes back to us to live a completely different life. They will give us what is owed to us because we should never have fought like this. J. What we think we know as of Wednesday, July 16, 2026. Monday, July 13, 2026. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has rejected the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, ICC, over American citizens. This meant that America was rejecting international law and thus any form of global governance. Monday, July 13, 2026. Corrupt Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts exposed. John Roberts' wife Jane made $10,323,842.70 in commissions from big law firms arguing cases before his Supreme Court. Roberts listed it as salary to hide it. He never recused from 500-plus cases when he had a huge financial and family conflict of interest. A formal disbarment complaint was filed April 2026. This guy saved Obamacare and sold out conservatives for years. Why don't House Republicans impeach John Roberts immediately? Hidden files on Telegram, twos. July 14, 2026. Breaking special report, behind the Air Force One leak, what the British fear the most, why Trump's return to the American system risks it all. July 14, 2026. Breaking economic news, Trump's new American monetary system sparks massive debate over gold, XRP, stablecoins and the future of the US dollar. July 14, 2026. Well, no one expected this. July 14, 2026. Historical bombshell, the tax that wasn't supposed to spread, but did. How a temporary lie became a century of theft, control, and economic slavery for the American people. 2s. July 14, 2026 Nuclear bombshell. Since 1871, we were born as corporate slaves. The Great Awakening exposes the system and reclaims human sovereignty. 2s. July 14, 2026 Boom. The deep state shattered. President Trump's historic Thursday address to expose newly declassified intelligence, voting machine vulnerabilities, and K2s. July 2, 2026. 3:47 a.m. ET. 3 specific sectors of the Pentagon were given blackout orders. Communication severed. Lockdown security. The media was told it was a routine server upgrade. That was a bold-faced lie. Contacts within the Joint Chiefs of Staff confirm what really happened was Operation Military Reformation 0701. The systematic purging of compromised senior officers who sold America's military secrets. The betrayal they didn't tell you. Trump loyalists in military intelligence kept track of a network of 23 generals and admirals for 14 months, quietly. These were not just bad leaders. They were traitors. They operated a shadow operation from Fort Bragg, black small square emoji, 847 million euros in untraceable crypto moved through shell companies. Nuclear submarine blueprints sold to Beijing. Underground bunkers coordinates shared with Moscow. They thought they were above the law. They figured Trump would never find out. They were disastrously wrong. Extraction procedure. Exactly 3:47 a.m., the military police, under direct orders from White Hat commanders loyal to Trump, moved in. No FBI, a pure military operation. 14 four-star generals arrested and transferred to safe houses, 9 admirals relieved of command, on tribunal hold, 47 terabytes of encrypted comms seized. The timeline secret, Phase 1, evidence gathering, finished May 2026, Phase 2, extraction and detention. We are here, July 2nd to 4th, 2026, Phase 3, military tribunals, July 15th to July 30th, 2026, Phase 4, public declassification, August 2026. The panic in Washington. The deep state is in total meltdown. Politicians are looking to charter private jets to countries without extradition treaties. Why? Why those arrested 23 military leaders? They sing. They are surrendering the senators who approved the treason. The defense contractors who paid the bribes are being flipped. The entire corrupt military-industrial complex is falling apart in real time. Trump's nuclear bomb. Trump knew. He let them build the network so he could capture the whole web. They're handing the military back to the patriots. Right now, the biggest cleanup in the history of Republic is going on. This won't be covered by the press until Phase 4. They are frightened. Look for the retirements of high-ranking officers within the next 72 hours. They'll say health reasons. You'll know the truth. They are being burned. L2s. July 14, 2026. In the 1920s, Justin Christoflo, a French baker, discovers that the Earth and the atmosphere form a natural electric battery. He plants copper antennas, iron wires, and magnets in his garden. And there, the miracle: potatoes weighing 1 kilogram, carrots weighing 2 kilograms, leeks as thick as arms, 0 chemical fertilizers. Yields times 3. Harvests 3 weeks earlier. Germany offers him 10 million francs for his patent. He refuses out of patriotism. Result: his machines are destroyed, his publications banned, and the word electroculture is erased from French dictionaries. Today, thousands of gardeners are doing it again in secret. Thursday, July 9, 2026. Fox News breaking: Deep State's desperation exposed. They tried to kill President Trump while in flight. The Deep State cowardly launched a cyber strike from Langley, Virginia as Trump left Turkey July 9, 2026 in the brand new Boeing 747-8, donated by Qatar, his future Air Force One. They attacked the electronic controls of the plane. But Trump, always 10 steps ahead, switched at the last second to the older Air Force One. What the fake news called a routine security precaution was really a clever trap. It was the beginning of the Great Purification. Interception of encrypted comms. Scurrying traitors. Niche reporters hit with emergency subpoenas for having obits and air disaster stories written up and ready to go. They were waiting for the smash. They failed. Once. Again. Trump just blew up the whole rat hole. The storm has arrived. Justice is on its way. Who's freaking out the most right now? N2s. July 14, 2026 Uniformed Air Force Major who called for Trump's impeachment goes to Gitmo. The Uniformed Air Force Major arrested on the steps of the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday for unlawfully calling for President Trump's impeachment now occupies a Camp Delta cell at Guantanamo Bay pending either a general court-martial or a military tribunal. The Uniform Code of Military Justice explicitly prohibits service members of any rank from publicly disparaging senior administration officials, such as the President, Vice President, or Secretary of War. But on Wednesday, Major Jason Watson joined a group of Antifa insurgents, holding a sign demanding the immediate impeachment of President Trump and Vice President Vance. He was arrested by Capitol Police and later handed to Air Force Special Operations Command, AFSOC, operators who shackled his treason assassin put him on a flight to Gitmo. Before that, though, Watson was arraigned before a military magistrate at the Washington Navy Yard, where an overly sympathetic judge gave Watson numerous opportunities to justify his behavior. From what we know, the jurist asked Watson whether he was under the influence of drugs or alcohol when he violated UCMJ Articles 88, Contempt toward Officials, 94, Mutiny or Sedition, and 133, Conduct Unbecoming. Watson was also asked whether anyone had bribed or blackmailed him into breaking his oath. His injudicious disregard for courtroom decorum earned him what could be a one-way trip to the nation's most notorious detention camp, where he now sits in pre-trial confinement while the Office of Military Commissions debates whether to court-martial Watson or try him as a domestic terrorist, an enemy combatant. Neither possibility bodes well for Watson, but conviction by court-martial would assuredly yield a less severe sentence than would a guilty verdict at a military tribunal. If convicted of mutiny at a general court-martial, he could, potentially, face a death sentence. However, life imprisonment without parole, dishonorable discharge, and forfeiture of rank and benefits are the probable outcomes. If he's dragged before a tribunal, he will likely get the rope. According to military sources, a preliminary investigation into Watson's background has already unearthed sufficient evidence to establish guilt. Based on interviews with his peers and enlisted, he, tried recruiting others to stand with him against Trump at the Capitol, but he failed. The 15 people he approached showed better judgment. Still, it's clear-cut mutiny and inciting insurrection. He betrayed the uniform. One thing's for sure, life, as he knew it, is over. This'll be an open and shut case.
Motivated. I'm motivated. He put together an incredible presentation that I think is going to be monumental in changing everybody's view of going forward. And Larry, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so this, right from the get-go, this slide it pretty much says it all. So let's walk into it.
Okay, so basically what you're seeing here is an event that's been triggered that is going to change the world. It's going to lead us into an understanding of the stewardship of the planet, where we're going to understand that we're walking into a time when resource conservation is going to be crucial to the entire world. Oil has been shown to be the lifeblood of the world with everything that happened with Iraq. So we're going to have to get less dependent on that, and things are going to happen that's going to cause that to happen. If we look at what's happening in the Middle East over there, their aquifers are drying up. Aquifers around the world are drying up. We're likely to have wars in the Middle East in particular over water. And then when we go over to the next box, we've got natural resources, critical resources that we have to share with all the nations of the world. And silver, for example, is going to be crucial. It's not considered to be a critical resource. And then when you get over to the other side, the thing, in my opinion, most likely to trigger World War III, if we have it, and I don't think we will, is what you're looking at right there with the silicon chips, because we found out last night that our principal enemy, other than people in our own government, is China, who basically bought and paid for a lot of the people that are in our government on the three-letter agencies and our Congress and our Senate, etc. And so here is what's changed. Now we're going to have to understand and face the reality that we have to pay attention to these things, because we're on top of that, something else is happening that I know you've talked about. Serious climatic changes due to warming. The storms that are coming are more severe. You put all that together and we're in a tipping point. But so now it's only not only that we have to change because of these things, but it's also because we now understand who our enemy is and what that's going to do to force changes upon us. So let's go on down to the next slide. And please, Michael, I know with your background, with you being a seer, you see a lot of the things I do. So you just chime in and talk over me anytime you want to say something. So basically,
your book, as we're showing here, is a fantastic book. Like all the information you reveal or that has been revealed to you, and you channel it through. It is a fantastic book. So highly recommend it. And of course, I'm wearing your shirt. I got your Liberty mug. It's massive because we need a lot of stimulation. I have green tea in here. That's the stimulation I get. But so it is fantastic. So.
Thanks for the plug. Well, all I'll say is if you want to buy the book, just click on that QR code. But for those who aren't ready to buy it, you can get a free chapter that'll give you a little bit of an idea of what's in the book. Here we go. We're getting down now into something, and a loop is closing. And that loop started in the 1960s, somewhere between 1961 and 1963. I don't know the exact date Kennedy made this speech, and Trump has just not closed that loop. So I'm going to lean forward here. My eyes aren't great. I'm going to lean forward and try to read this quote to you if I can. So this is him just before he was assassinated. And then we'll talk about why he got assassinated and why we need to be very careful about what's happening with Trump right now. So here we go. I'm leaning forward. We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its spheres of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, remember, instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which is corrupted vast human and material resource, constricted. It is a system that has conscripted vast human and material resources into a building of listen to this, tightly knit, highly efficient machinery that combines the military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political period. That is a definition of a dictatorship, a shadow government that rules the world, that puppets all the nations of the world, and not one single nation in the world is really sovereign because we're puppeted by the people who control the money, and the money controls all the spheres of influence. Now, what did we learn last night? Well, NBC and ABC, if you can believe it, refused to air Trump's speech. What do you think of that, Michael?
Yeah, I think traitors. So they're people at their top, that are doing this. Did it back in 2020, the political election steal, and now again, Trump is trying to come out and inform everybody, and they're trying to stop him again. So their executives, the top people, they should be held accountable. I think they should be held accountable back in 2020 if they were different. I think they're treasonous. I think they should be held treasonous, and then anyone involved in their system should be held treasonous. And at the very minimum, I think we should start with basically kicking them off the air that we pay for. We, the American people, pay for this, all the airwaves, and they're using it for free. And they're using it to control and manipulate our minds. So they go away, I think.
Well, Trump sort of alluded to that last night. And then the last little box over there alludes to the swamp that he said he's going to drain. But you know what? I'm personally very happy that they didn't air it. I'm personally happy that the politicians are coming out now and talking about impeaching Trump because they're outing them themselves. And look at that banner above that picture. Basically, he told us in no uncertain terms, China is our enemy. It's not Iran. It's not Russia. It's China. It's China puppeted by the global financial elite and all the politicians in our government. If you can read the list of things down there, 18 states have basically been bought and paid for in order to collude with China to steal our elections. And then there's more coming because we haven't even begun to talk about what's coming out of Venezuela, and we haven't been talking about what's going to come out of the other 71 other countries that have lost their elections due to theft. So there are some huge changes coming. Let's go on down and then chime in anytime you want. This is
unmasking democratic socialism. Hillary Clinton, I posted this on my X. Hillary Clinton, was saying, we need to push back against Trump because Russia helped Trump. We need to find his taxes. So both of those were nothing burgers. Russia, there was no collusion. There was no election steal from Russia. Trump had his taxes shown, which was illegal the way they did it, but they were shown. Nothing burgers. And Hillary Clinton, when she was putting that out, said that we, the Democrat Party, we should get China to get involved because they have Russia. So let's get China involved. So here we are.
Absolutely. And for me personally, when I had my near-death experience in 68, I've been waiting for this moment all that time. God said that I will keep you in the cleft of the rock, and all you'll do is study and prepare for decades until we're at the most critical tipping point in America's history. It's right now. Trump is just telling us. He's saying that this event right now with China being disclosed basically creates a situation that is more dangerous than when we were in a World War I, World War II, or 9/11. Whoever loses this battle is going to control the geopolitical situation of the world for the next 100 years or more. So we can't afford to lose, and we're not going to lose, because you're going to see as we go through and we get some quotes from the Bible and from prophets that God is on our side. He's orchestrated all of this. He knew the end before the beginning. Comments, Michael, before we go on?
No, that's great.
Well, I do want to read that last line. Socialism is not the answer. It invariably leads to poverty and oppression. So let's take a real quick run back in history. And we had the Bolshevik Revolution that birthed communism in Russia. And then we had the Mao Revolution that birthed communism in China. And about 35 million people were killed in Russia. About 60-some million people were killed in China. And Kennedy, the man that we're talking about closing this loop, opening and closing this loop, said there's never been an instance in the world where communists came into a nation other than through coercion. Nobody willingly in their right mind chooses to live under communism, except maybe our youth that's been brainwashed, but it's our job to unbrainwash them. Shall we go on down, Michael? Comment if you got something to say, please.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, socialism has never worked, and I don't understand how people can believe that this time is going to be different. It's repeatedly over and over and over again. Venezuela is the latest example, and the people at the top become billionaires. So the people at the top love socialism, and they want to push us in socialism. They benefit.
Well, we get some things too. Remember when Russia fell? Remember, God says nations can be risen in a day and fall in a day. When you stood in line for an entire day to get a loaf of bread, I mean, look at that perk. We get a nice suntan standing out there waiting to get a loaf of bread or a pair of shoes. I mean, I'm sorry, but I got to be a little levity because this is heavy stuff.
I like it.
Here, I've been waiting since 2014 to talk about this slide and three others in this presentation. And
Wow.
People have been using this to badmouth Trump, and it really irritates me because they want everything to happen on their timeline, and they don't have the big picture. They don't do what you and I do. They don't go out and get hundreds of pieces of data and put it together so that they can see the puzzle and view everything from 60,000 foot down. So right now, in 2014, it's when this chain of prophecies coming. It's a strange July, catastrophic summer, cataclysmic summer. Well, is there anybody that's been paying any attention that could say that that's not happening? We've had the most severe weather we've ever seen. We've seen multiple earthquakes. We've seen volcanic eruptions. We've seen financial problems. We've seen the war back and forth and all the angst that's created. We've seen the world being in an oil shortage and everything that creates. If that isn't a strange July and a cataclysmic summer, I don't know what is. I mean, it's there. It's right before your eyes. But down at the bottom, look at the second bullet point. God says that he will protect America through all of this. And he says, I have agents in their midst that will just destroy America's enemies. So what did Trump say? What did Mike Lindell said from the very beginning? We have it all. We have it all. So Trump has never got his day in court, but now he's going to get his day in the court of public opinion. And he did something that he learned because of what happened with Kennedy. Kennedy made the speech, but Kennedy didn't have an army of white hand behind him, and he didn't cover his butt by putting all the information out there. That's Trump's insurance policy.
Yes.
So now all people can just go out and find out. They can't call it a lie. They can't call it misinformation because it's all there. All you got to do is take the time to go get it. So let me stop and let you comment on that before we go on.
Yeah, and this is the difference. We have learned, from the past. Very unfortunate. President Kennedy was assassinated, but this is one of the main reasons why he was assassinated. He was exposing the deep state. He said he would take the CIA and break it into 1,000 pieces, and of course they came after him. He didn't have the evidence readily available, so before he could reveal it, Trump revealed last night, and this morning all the evidence is there. Tons of evidence. I'm sifting through it. It's phenomenal. Wow. So go to whitehouse.gov and you can download all the information, guys. It's there.
Yep. That was a smart move on his part. Let's go to the next slide. And for those who maybe don't follow me, I died in 68. God sent me on a journey. He showed me then that I had to read the Bible from cover to cover, the Quran from cover to cover. And he said, when the time comes, when that critical point in history comes that I told you about, where I'm going to bring you out to deliver a message to open people's eyes and set them free, you will need to know that Iran is our mortal enemy, along with China, Iran. And even when this war is over, I want to bring out something. The regime may fall, the IRGC may fall, but nonetheless, we have to deal with something that started all the way back in the Bible with Abraham and with the orphan spirit and with Isaac and Ishmael. And basically, we have a situation where Europe is being attacked. America is being attacked by what? By an incursion of illegal Muslim immigrants who come into the nation, who have 4 wives, who each wife has 2 or 3 or 4 kids, and they're outbirthing the people in Europe in particular, and outbirthing is in America. But here's what else we got to watch for. We are going to think Iran is safe. It's over with. We now have to look domestically inside of our country, as does Europe, and understand that even though we're going to enter into a period of peace with the Islamic nations, with the Muslim nations, it'll be a situation where my enemy's enemy is my friend, because we have mutual things in common that are beneficial to us. But at the deep-seated core level, the idea is that Islam will rule the world. We have fought with them for 1,400 years to see who was going to rule the world. And so what they're doing, to make no mistake, these immigrants who come in have nothing. They come in with a shirt on their back, and all of a sudden there are multi-million-dollar mosques popping up all over the United States, all over Europe, funded by the Muslim oil-rich nations in the Middle East, putting their clerics in, teaching radicalization, Islamic radicalization, and controlling the schools. And so we need to understand, we have to back Donald Trump, because any nation that doesn't have a sovereign border, so we've got it closed, but now we got to get the infiltrators out. Any nation that doesn't have sovereign currency, any nation that doesn't have sovereign elections is not sovereign, and has no nation to be sovereign over. So we need to understand one threat. Very soon, Iran is going to fall. And God told us right here in the very beginning in Ezekiel, he said he knew this was coming. He knew that they would use oil in order to control the world. That's the lifeblood of the world. He said, I'll put a hook in their mouth. So I haven't had one night's loss of sleep over this, because I knew coming into it, Iran falls. We win. And when this is over, the Straits of Hormuz is no longer going to be able to control a significant amount of oil, because the Arab-rich nations are building pipelines, and America has entered into an agreement with Saudi Arabia and India to build a really important pipeline that goes from a transit system that goes by water from India to Saudi Arabia, across all the Arab nations, terminates in Israel, and then goes by sea on to Europe. And so at any rate, the bottom line is People can come to America to get oil. Iraq's going to get their oil is going to be pumping like wildfire. Oil prices are going to go down. It's going to change the world because now we're not going to be able to be controlled by oil pipelines by oil in the Strait of Hormuz, or for that matter, any of the other choke points over in the Asian environment. So comments on that before we go on.
No, I totally agree. They're beautiful people in the Muslim community, but I've spent nearly my entire career with the SEAL teams and the CIA at high levels in combat zones overseas, and the Muslim extremists completely control pretty much the Middle East, and Iran especially. Iran foments a lot of the terrorism throughout the Middle East. It's horrific. It's horrific beyond belief, and their beliefs and their way of life, unfortunately, do not align with ours in any way, shape, or form. And their intention, as they've said multiple times, is to overwhelm us and overcome our way of life and take over.
Few people in your audience have probably ever read the Quran. I read it cover to cover because it was an assignment from God. And it's almost like two books. If you're Islamic, it's a book of love and peace. It is, really is. But if you're an infidel, any religion other than Islam, you're an infidel. And it says what? You can lie to them. You can cheat them. You can make them subservient. They have to pay your taxes. You know that gold star that became so famous in World War II? You know where that originated from? From the Islamic world. That was to designate that you were not an Islamic person and you had to pay a serfdom's tax. So we need to understand, just because this war ends doesn't mean we don't have to keep our eye on Islam. So for those who I can't believe people are saying Iran's winning, they're winning, and folks, the whole world is coming against them right now. You got the coalition that started out, the U.S. and Israel, and then now you've got the Arab nations that are joining in, and Kuwait and Bahrain actually sent their jet planes in to take out sites, just like the United States has. And now we've got the Kurds entering into it. And I can't say this for a fact, other than through missiles from the United States. There was a car accident that was pretty suspicious. There were a couple of people killed on the streets. I think the Kurds or the Iranian people themselves are now saying, because with the military background you have, I want you to comment on that before we go any further.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Iraq, which is right next to Iran. And all of the violence that we were seeing was coming from Iran. Of course, President Trump, took out their head general in a missile attack. That was great. That guy killed a lot of my friends and probably 1 million plus people in Iraq. Now, Iraq, I think, with the Kurds is definitely involved in Iran. They hate Iran massively, passionately. So I remember working with those guys, Peshmerga. They're fantastic people. Those are the type of Muslims, I think, because they embrace every religion in their country, in their edge of northern Iraq. So they're fantastic. Now they're going to build a pipeline. They're talking about it down from Kurdistan, down a little bit into middle of Iran, and then across through Syria, which is now on the side of the United States, and out into the Mediterranean. They're going to build a pipeline, I think, from Oman across Saudi Arabia and Red Sea. They'll be able to take, oil from there. So we're just going to, bypass the Straits of Hormuz. I think that's coming. But I think even Iran at some point is going to get, once they're cleansed, which is coming, they're going to start to pump oil like never before. And they're going to, go through the Strait of Hormuz and share with the world. But we're getting to that point, like you talk about, where resources are going to be an interesting factor. So I'm looking forward to us continuing on.
Militarily, I want to go back to something that you alluded to. My entire lifetime, we have been at, just like the Bible says, wars and rumors of wars. And we've had the Middle East in constant conflict, flare up, wars, terrorists. So with Iran basically being defanged, as they lose their resources, now they're no longer able to fund the proxy. So all of the terrorism we see in the Middle East is going to die down. And now something that is coming out of this, Trump is beginning to make a move to say, we now really understand that our really number one enemy is China. And so what he's alluding to at this point is he's basically suggesting that the alliance of Israel, think of that, the little Satan, with the Muslim nations have enough military power that they don't need America's help. Once the Middle East is settled down, the war is over, the proxies have been taken out. And so he's going to go through the process of moving our military out of that region of the world, leaving it in their hands to take care of themselves. He's going to draw down forces in Europe, which he's already taken 8,000 forces out of Germany. We're going to look at a map at the end that's going to go into more detail on this, but he's going to bring those forces over to our hemisphere to keep America safe. And most importantly, all those ships that are over there now are going to be stationed in the Pacific so that we're in striking distance to China if anything ever happens. So there's a complete military realignment coming. But all of these people are all coming. NATO's coming into it. The IRGC leadership is being decapitated. The people of Iran, I want to make this statement on this. They are praying for America to keep this up and to win. They don't look any longer at America as being the enemy. They look at the RGC, who every time they protested because they didn't have water, because they didn't have food, because the living conditions were harsh, whoever organized those protests, and they say there's potentially as many as 50,000 of the horrible regime in Iraq. So they're seeing us truly as liberators, and we're not going to come in and we're not going to occupy and keep boots on the ground. We're going to let that nation take care of itself once everything stabilizes. So back to you from a military perspective, in case you disagree with what I'm saying.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, things are moving strategically. We're winning this war. Of course, yeah. Iran had 47 years to accumulate missile systems and so forth. I've heard from different sources they still have 70% of what they've accumulated. So yeah, we're gonna have to put boots on the ground. I've said that from the beginning. Once we start seeing boots on the ground, I think this is that's going to be the real turning point. And I think the groundwork is being set for that. The missile strikes that we're doing right now, all along the coast and so forth of Iran, is basically setting up for the boots on the ground. So it's going to be, and it's not just going to be America. It's going to be all of those countries there in the Gulf region.
Well, let's investigate that just a little deeper. So I don't think it's going to be like in other wars where we're an army of invasion. No. I think that what's happening here, this war has two components to it. It's the kinetic war that has disabled them, taken away their military capabilities to a degree. Like you said, they still have a lot of missiles left. But now what's really going to bring them down is we're going back in history to an old-fashioned siege. And when you start taking out the oil and the straits and getting rid of the island, Karg Island, when you bomb the railroad line that connects Iran to China and to Russia, when you take out bridges, when you take out their back door for their black markets, when you leave them economically where they're just absolutely decimated, now they have a surrender, a real surrender, and they bring us in and we come in, and it's not coming in guns a-blazing, it's coming in to a nation that has submitted to us. It would be much like what happened when we went into Japan after World War II. And you probably remember, what was the general, was it MacArthur who was put in charge of taking over Japan after they surrendered? I think it was.
I think it was, yeah. MacArthur.
Went back anyway, look at the strategy that he implemented. He made the leader of Japan tell the people that he wasn't a god, and he came in and he didn't use hard tactics. He basically he's a soft hand. If we go in and we do this right and we support the people, like what happened in Iraq, this is just going to be a surrender and an economic conversion. So comments before we go on, because I really respect your opinion when it comes to the military. You know about 10,000 times more than I do.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see the surrender. And Juan O'Saven was on my show night before last, and he said that one of the reasons Iran is holding out is because they want to hold on to the yellow cake for making the nukes. They got that from Russia. Russia got it from Hillary and Obama in Uranium One deal. So they're trying to hold out the very last, so they protect them, because once that yellow cakes, we look at that yellow cake, we're going to know exactly where it came from, and that'll destroy them.
Yeah. Well, let's delve into that just a little bit. Now, once we get past this, then we're going to go a lot faster. But I wanted to stop on this and dissect the military component. I think there's one off ramp for Iran, and here's what it is: the IRGC has to understand that every nation in the world now, the coalition all over the world, is against them. And China said it, Russia said it, NATO said it. You cannot have a nuclear weapon, period. That's an absolute given, and you're not going to control and cause a toll to be paid for ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That's absolutely unnegotiable terms. But there is a way that they can have an off-ramp. The IRGC is made up of two branches. One is the military component that justifies itself based on the hatred of America in Israel, but the other is that they control somewhere between 30 and 40% of the total economy. And the Arab nations are looking to do something like we did with the Marshall Plan. They're saying, we'll give you $320 billion. America's saying, we'll take the sanctions off, we'll unlock your money, we'll help you rebuild your infrastructure. If the IRGC accepts that olive branch, then what's going to happen is, just like after World War II, we came in and the Black Rocks of the world rebuilt the very nations that we destroyed with the bombs, right? The IRGC has a huge construction component, and they would have an economic viability because they'd be the ones most likely to be in the position to rebuild the infrastructure. So they can have a viability of a sort, but it's not going to be the military stranglehold that they have on the world right now. Comments on this, and then let's go on and get out of the military conversation.
Absolutely right. It's all about economics. So if a country is wealthy, they don't go to war. So that's what we did with Germany, well, Europe, and with Japan. We made them economically wealthy. We rebuilt them, and we didn't have we don't have problems with them now. So that's same things happening with Vietnam. Same thing is going to happen with Iran. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And we've got some people saying that. But Donald Trump, for one, Donald Trump's been saying over and over again, we have to have economic parity between every nation in the world.
Yes.
And we have to stop Western hegemony, and we have to help the Southern Hemisphere within our hemisphere to have economic parity. And you can go all the way back to Eisenhower, who was, remember, a general before he was president. And what did he say? He said the central cause of war, is there any man, any woman, any child who does not understand that the central cause of war is lack of economic parity between nations? So that's the number one of the changes that's going to happen. The first world nations, their currencies are going to devalue. The third world nations, their currencies are going to appreciate. We're going to meet in the middle at relative parity, and we are going to be responsible for doing something that has been denied them for centuries. We are going to be helping them develop their infrastructure so that they're not forced to remain in poverty because they sell us their natural resources as raw materials. They're going to actually be competitors. They're going to get the opportunity to participate in the economic wealth of the world. And what you're going to see, we'll get into this in a later slide, is we're going to see that all the Southern Hemisphere is going to have an unbelievable economic boom. So let's stay on that middle slide there. And now we're going back to the Bible again. And so God had me spend months in the book of Revelation, studying it, tearing apart, looking at the combination beasts, looking at Daniel and the prophecies. And there's a whole lot of prophecy right there on that page. One of the things it talked about was that the time would come towards the end. We're not quite there yet, but that invading forces coming down, and I believe it would be over not oil but water, would walk across the Euphrates. And so now that gives us an understanding of a look at that picture up above and the one below, and you can see the dramatic change.
Yeah.
But now we have to look at something that says there's more going on than just nature. We have to look over, and we have to look at the Bible and look at some of the prophecies, and we have to look at Turkey, and we have to look at Russia, and we say, how are they going to play in the Middle East in the future? So let's dissect that before we get out of this graphic. Turkey's supposed to be, and possibly Russia, along that coalition that comes down to attack Israel in the future. But right now, Turkey is setting the stage that could literally lead to water wars. They have dammed the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, causing terrible economic hardship on Syria, on Iraq, and in all the nations that are in what was at one time the cradle of civilization. And so all of that water coming, they said, Turkey says, well, it emanates from the mountains in our land, and so they've cut it off. And that is a critical crisis in the Middle East that's going to lead to these changes that I was referring to in the very first slide when I talked about resources are going to be a very important geopolitical control mechanism in the future. Now let's go to Russia, and I think people are going to be surprised with what I'm about to say. The Bible says that lower picture depicts it as it is depicted in the combination beast, where it's got ribs in its mouth and it goes out and devours much flesh. But it also says that it is the sleeping bear. And I believe what's happening right now is Russia, Mother Russia, fell within a matter of days over an economic crisis with the ruble. And I think that now what's happening with this war in Ukraine is both Ukraine and Russia have been severely economically damaged. And I think that, along with what's happening in the tundra with the permafrost melting and the cost that's associated with maintaining all of the infrastructure that goes across Siberia, Russia's about to fall economically. People have been leaving. The troops there's 100,000 troops that are trapped. That war is going to end. And then I think what we're going to find is the bear is going to go back to sleep for a while. And then we need to understand something from history. I think Russia is going to become our friend, and we're not going to be fighting Russia for some period of time. And Russia is going to be one of the nations that maybe helps save the world as we go through these resource crises. Because if you're in the northern hemisphere, up by the Arctic Circle, as global changes happen, Siberia is going to become one of the major grain baskets of the world. And because of all the ice and the glaciers, they have water. Same thing with Canada. So Canada and Siberia/Russia are going to feed the world in the future as we go through this resource change. And what we need to understand about Russia is Russia forever has been against globalism. Russia came in and warned England in World War II, if you go in on the side of the South, we're coming in on the side of the North. And they were the ones who obstructed the formation of the European Union, the first of the UN, the first time they tried to get it. And so Russia is, most people don't know, it's a Christian nation, and it is a nation that is aligned with Trump in this regard. They are against globalism. So again, it's that same old story. There's no real friends in geopolitics. There's just alliances. And when it comes to Russia and the United States at this moment in time, my enemy's enemy is my friend. I don't think we have to worry about Russia for the time being. We need to be focusing on China. But now that bottom part down there, then I'll go to the next slide. I'm sorry, but you want to comment on that before I go on, because maybe you have a different opinion.
Yeah, and that brings up your point on the first slide. It's Russia has more resources than any country in the world by far. All of the top resources are in Russia. So the water, like you're talking about, and the food, Canada, Russia, both of those areas are going to be very important going forward.
Yeah, and let's look at what you just said about the resources. They've got them, but the problem is because of the harsh climate in Siberia, they're not accessible. But if we have the pole shift that's predicted, and as we have climate change, now those resources are going to be readily available. And the people of Russia here's what always happens. When a nation is kept in suppression and slavery for a long time, the people come out and they've got a softened heart. The Russian people, again, are not our enemy. It's communism. And when communism falls, we're going to see Russia is going to put out a helping hand to the world. And now we can jump over later and talk about what has to happen in our hemisphere between Canada and us. That's very important as well. But let's look at this prophecy again from Kim Clement, all the way back to June 14th in 2014. And I'm not going to read it. He's basically saying there's going to be a lot of political changes changing. And what I think you're going to see is by the time we get to the presidential election in 2028, either the Democratic Party won't even exist or it will be unrecognizable. Yep. The Republican Party will have been conveniently purged of all the rhinos and will look a lot different. And then we're probably going to go back to our history and we're going to understand that our founding fathers actually told us that a two-party system was not the best system. So I think we're probably going to have the formation of one or more completely new political parties, just like is the case in many other countries of the world. So let me stop and let you comment on that before we go on down.
Yeah, we've seen, like President Trump, he bounced back and forth, Democrat, Republican. He really came out of nowhere. He was never really any political party. And I've talked to several people that, no background in politics, but have incredible, insights and so forth. Rachel Rodriguez, who is in Florida, I just had her on. She would be a fantastic governor of Florida. Absolutely fantastic, no question about it. But getting those people with the best ideas and getting them to the top is going to be because it was always supposed to be like that. Like Abraham Lincoln, he was, grew up he was poor in a log cabin and, he went to the very top. That's the way it was always supposed to be. So anyone could make it all the way to the president. It's very hard these days for anyone to make it in the political party. So I think the political parties like you're talking about, especially the party of the jackasses, I think that party is done. I've said that party is going to go bye-bye for a while, and there's no way they survive going forward after what they've done.
I agree. I absolutely agree. So we're going to have massive political change, and it's going to create a forced unity. If you've got four parties, you got to get a coalition. You've got to cooperate. And then the other thing that's coming down that changes this current scenario where you said you can't rise anymore from abject poverty into to power. Well, the global financial elite system is going to be torn apart. We're going to deglobalize, and that takes the power away. And when we get control of the purse strings and take it away from the global financial elite, away from the UN, away from the World Bank, which then means we've taken it away from all the spheres of influence, it means that we have control over the lying politicians, over the news media, the fake news, as Trump would say, over the banking system, over all the spheres of influence. Now, if we, the Christian conservatives, can groom people to step in. We have the opportunity, according to our Constitution, to have a special election. We have 120 days to put it together, put a slate together. If we can put people in, now we can change the whole economic system, the whole political system of the world. And now let's go back to something you were alluding to, because you alluded to Lincoln. And Lincoln, it's amazing how these people see these things, years, decades, hundreds of years ahead of time. And Lincoln said, I fear for our great nation because I see the formation and the coalition between banks and corporations that will lead to corruption that will control our great nation. That's what has to be undone. That's what's going to be undone. And we're going to become a nation that is no longer divided, but because of mutual need, because of all the resource constraints we're going to have, we're going to change the entire world. There's going to be an exodus from the big cities, because now we have the technology that allows it, where you and I are in totally different states here halfway across the country, and we're doing a show together. So basically, for 250 years there's been a migration path from the country to the city. Now it's going to be from the city to the country, and that is absolutely going to change the entire dynamics of the culture of this nation and nations around the world. So comments on that before we go on down.
No, it's definitely a movement that's coming. We're going to see it. It's happening. It's beautiful.